Good evening. I'd like to call to order the December 5th, 2011 Lake Washington School District Board of Directors meeting. And Chris Carlson, a board member, has been excused for this evening, so the reason there's just 4 of us up here. And before we get started, and I ask for approval of agenda, there's a number of, we have public comment coming up, and it'll be in a little bit before we do that. We've got several other things before that, but we have a number of people here speaking on a couple of topics. So I'd like to give you a heads up on timing. Since this is our business meeting, we're going to have a limit on how long the public comment goes this evening. So I've looked to have about 5 people that are here that are talking about elimination of softball and baseball. So the 5 of you will have about 10 minutes total to speak, so you can decide amongst yourself how you want to divide up your time. I'd suggest if you want to get everybody in, that everybody try to talk about 2 minutes, but not go beyond 3 for that group. And then the group that's here for the fields for Eastlake High School, you have about 10 people signed up, and I'd like you to have, you'll have about 20 minutes. So again, figure out amongst yourself how you want to do that. What I'll have you do is come up as a group, and you can just tell us who you are and then cycle through the microphone. And that way you have more time to actually speak than be getting up and down and timing and whatever. And then our anybody else that's here to speak on other topics will have their usual 3 minutes individually. So with that in mind, we'll get started with our meeting, and I'll ask for approval of our agenda.
So moved.
I have a motion from Doug and a second from Nancy. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. The first thing we'd like to do this evening is to honor Ravi Shahani, who has been a board member these last 8 years, and this is his last meeting with us this evening. And we'd like to thank him for his years of service, his putting up with us all this time, his bringing us just very interesting and thoughtful comments and interest in education. I've learned a lot from Ravi over his time here. He's given us a different direction, I think, in how we look at education and how we think about what we're doing and what we do for kids. So I truly, truly appreciate having had him here as a board member. We'll miss him tremendously. We have a little something for you from the board and from our superintendent. That's along with your Hope cookies. So, other board members or Chip, anybody would like to say anything to Robbie?
You're just really going to be missed. You brought, as Jackie said, it's been a whole new level, particularly on the data analysis, the data dashboard, the depth of the questions, the way you jumped in. As Chip said earlier at our work session, no kids. Now you do, which we're all really glad. 2 kids in the system now. 8 years, lots happens in 8 years. But just a really valuable contribution to the board, and but just really appreciated it. Thanks. Come back.
And I was going to add that in some ways you were kind of the right person at the right time to, show up 8 years ago as you did. And I think it was because as a board and as a school district we're much more concerned about outcomes and performance. You helped us as a board kind of navigate through understanding how to use data, because as a person at Microsoft, you really, that's your bread and butter. So helping us who don't necessarily work in that world to understand that and use that data and challenge the people in the school district about their use of data and how to best present it was extremely valuable. And so in many respects, you were kind of the right person at the right time to show up when you did. And I share my colleagues' view that you're going to be missed.
And I, of course, can't get away with not saying anything. boardsmanship is as much an art as it is a science, and it is about understanding when to be collaborative and when to state a position and stay on that position because you believe so strongly in it and you believe it's for the public good. For those of you in the audience, being a school board member is a volunteer position. You're elected by the public, and for 8 years now, probably 10 to 20 hours a week, Ravi has given of his time and his strength and his mind freely to this organization so that we could be better because of it. So thank you for your service, thank you for your intellectual discipline, and thank you for your friendship.
I want to add one thing because that reminded me of it. When Ravi came on the board, he did it. I wouldn't say he picked us out of a hat per se, but he hadn't really been involved with public education here in the state of Washington. And boards, there is a lot to learn about being on a board, and it takes time to come up to speed, and he is a really fast learner, it was really fun, and he was really willing to learn. He wasn't going to just kind of come in and do things his own way. He was really a willing learner, and that was really appreciated by the whole board at the time. So.
And I'd like to thank Nina for sharing you with us.
And Maya and Neil.
Yes. But especially Nina. She's been there the whole 8 years.
Yes, I'll be sure to tell her. But I really want to thank not only all of you and Chip, I mean, Dawn is not here, also the community who has allowed me to represent them and actually in many cases providing a surprising amount of support and encouragement to me. As you all said, I showed up here, frankly, knowing just about nothing about the district. I kind of had a great interest in public education, and I had my knowledge of a citizen, right, who has been educated, and a desire to help people, and some knowledge of other organizations too, having worked in the technology industry. It's a different environment, but I think that it gave me a different perspective. But it's also been very interesting for me as knowing nothing about the district when I came to learn about not only the district, about public education broadly. At the same time, in my professional life, I became a manager there to kind of be learning all these different, not quite the same things, but, connected things. And then to have kids, and, I was told that, when you have kids, then you will understand. Many times that was the answer to my questions. I can more understand. I still don't think I was necessarily wrong previously, but it's really been just a fabulous journey for me, and it's just hard to. I don't think I ever could have really kind of foreseen or understood what would happen when I decided to join the board, but really it's been great. Like I really enjoyed it. Just thankful for the opportunity, and in case you get your hopes up, you may not be rid of me forever. So.
Oh, I can think of all sorts of things that you can continue
Right,
doing.
you can keep emailing us and sending us thoughts.
That's right.
That would be great. Well, again, thank you very much, and we wish you well in your future endeavors.
Thanks.
Okay, and before we move into the host school and recognition, just so everyone knows, with a lot of students here this evening, that once we're done with the National Merit from Redmond High School. I'm sorry, Jane, I just can't get you out of that school. And that from Redmond, that we will take a 5-minute break so students and families can go ahead and leave and get back to doing things, getting ready for school tomorrow and going to bed early for the youngsters. So that being said, on to the host school.
Thank you, Jackie. Tonight we're honored to have the Eastside Native American Education Program here with us to share a little bit about their program and their culture. I've asked Paul Vine, our Director of Special Services, to join us and introduce Mary Wilbur and the folks that have joined us. Paul.
It's a pleasure and an honor to introduce Mary Wilbur. Push. Great. It's a pleasure and an honor to introduce Mary Wilbur, who has been overseeing our Native American education program for some time now. Mary coordinates and oversees the Eastside Native American education program in Lake Washington, Bellevue, and North Shore School Districts, K-12. And since the initiation of the Indian Education Act in 1972, the federal government has assisted local school districts in funding educational programs for all of our Native American, American Indian, and Alaska Native children. This program is intended to provide children with programs that not only offer opportunities to succeed academically, but to enrich their cultural lives as well. All of our students are future ready and includes all components of their education. And Mary is an incredible resource to our district. I'm very fortunate to have her in our district, and we are, with our depth of knowledge and our dedication to our Native American, American Indians, and Alaskan Native children and families. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Mary. Thank you.
Wyatt Kasklakult, Indonesia and Smikstakaka. I'm Okanagan from Osuyas Indian Band. My name is Mary Wilbur. I gave you my Indian name, Snowbird. It's good to be here this evening. It's good to be here, Dr. Kimball and Board of Directors. Wanted to share with you in 1975, Lake Washington School District welcomed Indian education to the district. At that time, Romaine Watt was our fierce leader, and she had 20 students in her program. We jump ahead to 2011. We have 240 children, students in the program, representing 85 different tribes. And in the United States, there are 565 federally recognized tribes. So it's very diverse. If you look behind you, you'll see some of the flags of the tribes that are represented in the districts. And I'd like to thank Stephanie Townsend for doing the research and finding those flags for us. So that's what we have flying behind you this evening. Wanted to share a little bit, I know we don't have a lot of time, what we're doing in our program. And I thought I would share 5 different things this evening. We're building partnerships. At the present time, we're working with Title III programs because in the ELL portion or Title III portion, there is a component in there for Indian education. So last year we tested Native students that were not doing quite as well as other students. And so in the Bellevue School District, there were 22 students who qualified. In the North Shore School District, there were 32 students that qualified for Title III services. So right now, we're building a partnership with them where we will do professional development in those 2 school districts in January on cultural competency, and also sharing ideas of how to work with our students. And not just our students. When I go out into the district and do presentations at school, our district is very diverse. And so we will be focusing in on how to work with children of color and to recognize the diversity and the different teaching strategies that are necessary to make our children be number 1 in the state. And that is our 2020 vision for our school and for our Native Ed program. The other one, well, I guess in the partnerships, we work with counselors. I work with IEPs, 504s. We also work with tribes in the area. Right now, the Snoqualmie tribe is we are on Snoqualmie land. And The Snoqualmie tribe has been very helpful and has come to the program and has worked with our children, worked with our program to build, make a stronger program. And I can also say the same for Muckleshoot tribe, Puyallup tribe. So we work hand in hand with the tribes because we have some of their students in our program out of the 85 tribes that are represented, so it's very diverse. The other thing I wanted to talk about is every Monday night we meet at Lake Washington High School from 6:30 to 8:30, 9 o'clock, and it's a threefold vision for us. The first part of the evening, I call it Teaching from the Blue Book. So in November, we were able to explore what our strengths are for our students. So they were able to go through and figure out what their learning strengths are. And I think they were pretty interested to see where they learned in 8 different areas. They learned how to study for tests. So we teach out of the Blue Book teaching strategies for them. And it's very interesting. The other thing that we do is it's called Know the Facts. I'd like to have Mr. Vince Standing Deer stand up. Vince, can you stand up? Vince joined us last year. He retired from Cal State Fullerton. He was a professor there, and he taught American Indian history. What a blessing for our program to have someone come to our community, call me, and volunteer to come in and teach our children about American Indian history. And it's very exciting because we don't always get it in the schools. I know the district has been very good and has adopted some new curriculum 2 years ago in regards to Washington State history, and we really do applaud the district for that. But there is so much history out there to be learned, and I'd like to thank Mr. Standing Deer for finding us and providing that history for our program on Monday nights. The other thing that we do in the program is a cultural component. So you'll be able to witness some of that this evening. Last year we were able to make drums. So 40 of our students made drums. We went from the process of the hide that we have to creating a drum, to blessing that drum, to learning songs, and then also performing the songs at our student recognition banquet in June, where we celebrated 15 graduates from our program. And so tonight we will share some of those, share a song with you. Then the last thing that I wanted to talk about was leadership. I'd like to have my students that are here with me tonight to stand up. You can go ahead and take a seat. It is my goal to create leaders in our community, not only in the Native community, but in the community of the school and the community outside of the school. So every year, if you take a look behind me, you'll see 5 posters. And for the past 5 years, we've had a youth student coalition that organizes a powwow. We first started at Lake Washington High School. Since we have moved to Juanita High School because we grew out of Lake Washington High School. This year, the gym was pretty packed, and that's a big school. It's 3 gyms in one, and the Eastside Native American Education Program students did everything from the start to the finish, from learning how to raise funds, learning how to write grants, creating a book. You'll see hanging behind me a book that's on the wall. They created a book that they wrote their appreciation to the veterans. This year we had Mr. Samuel So, a Navajo code talker, come and share his experiences with other veterans and our guests that came that day. And the students have worked very hard, from even learning how to plan a menu to creating a budget to staying within that budget. It's exciting. For years I had fought the idea of having a powwow because it's a lot of work. But when you put culture together with academics, it makes powerful students. It makes leaders within our community. And so I really appreciate Lake Washington School District for the support that they give us in our program. So Lim Lim Washington School District. And if you just give me a moment, because I thought I had this queued up, but it's not anymore. Okay. This doesn't. Okay, perfect. Oh, no, just wait. I'm going to ask my students to come up and do a semicircle. Let's see, how do I start this?
Mayor, I was going to say, while they're doing that, I was honored about 39 years ago out of college as a Vista volunteer to work with Tohono O'odham people in Arizona and Pima, and I'm just delighted to see the program that you're working with. You know, it's grown so much over the years. It's really a delight to see this.
Thank you very much. You know, I wanted to introduce my parent committee. I'm not sure how to turn this on. Can you take care of it? If I could have Brenda Billy stand up, because I couldn't work without my parent committee who helps steer the program. Brenda's my parent committee chair. Vicki Barone is my treasurer. Vicki, can you wave? And Allison Garcia, who's sitting in the back, is our secretary. And then we also do offer homework support on Monday nights. And Mr. Chris Sand, a teacher in the Lake Washington School District, is our tutorer for the night. So Chris, if you could stand up. Okay, perfect. All right. I'm going to explain a little bit about the song. And I understand, Ravi, you're leaving tonight. This is your last time here on the board. But wanted to do a song for you, and I know that Dr. Kimball will be leaving us, and I'm very sad. Was able to meet with him a couple years ago, and he said, is there anything that I can do for Native education? So the school district has been very supportive, and so tonight our students would like to sing a warrior song for you gentlemen, to honor you for all the work that you have done in education. We are grateful for the service that you provide for our students, whether they're Native American or whether they're all students within the district. So these songs are for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you to each and one of you students and parents who came tonight. What a wonderful expression of your culture, and we just, again, want to thank you for being here tonight.
Very much. Thank you very much.
Thanks for the song. That was great.
Yep. Next up, Jackie, in our recognition tonight, we have a group of students here who are highly accomplished students, some of the best and the brightest in the country. And we've got Jane Todd, principal of
Redmond High School.
Thank you. It's been 5 years.
I had to think.
It's been 5 years to introduce these students and their accomplishments and maybe some of their plans. So, Jane? You have to hit the button that says push. There we go.
It says push? Yep. Okay. I'm on now. It's always an honor and a privilege and to be here tonight and introduce these students to you. I'm humbled to be in their presence because they're way smarter than I'll ever hope to be. They run circles around me and everybody else at school. And not only because of their intelligence, but because of their service, because of their humor, because of their creativity. They truly are well-rounded individuals, and I know I'm going to see their name up in lights at some point. I asked them, or actually my secretary asked them, what they planned to major in and where they were intending to go to school before we came this evening. And college admissions are still coming in. Fingers are still crossed in the audience. And I know we are short for time, so before I start announcing names, I'd like to just sort of read through a list of possible universities so you get an idea here. UW, for those of you who are Husky fans. Northeastern, Yale, Denison, Stanford, UC San Diego, CMU, USC Oxford, University of Oregon, Seattle University, Barnard, Cornell, USC, UCLA again, Yale again, Georgetown, Oregon State University, MIT, UPenn, Princeton, University of Oregon again, ASU, University in St. Louis, UW, and Northwestern again. So quite prestigious group of universities there. The students that I'm going to honor tonight are really divided into several categories. The first group will be the National Merit semifinalists, and these students are not yet finalists because they haven't been announced yet, but they are very strongly in the running to be finalists. So as part of the National Merit Scholarship Program, and I hope you understand that these students qualify by taking the PSAT and scoring very high on it. So there are approximately 1.5 million students that participate in the PSAT as juniors.
The press is making trouble over there in the corner.
I just thought it was me. Approximately 1.5 million students take the PSAT as juniors in the United States, and 15,000 of the 1.5 million end up becoming National Merit finalists. These students then have the opportunity as finalists to be chosen for National Merit scholarships from over 4,000 corporations and businesses, as well as the National Merit Corporation. So as I call your name, I'd like you to come up, line up here so you can be on TV. I have certificates that the board have created for you as in recognition, but I'm going to give those back to you at school. So if you'll stop by the main office sometime in the next week or so, we'll have those for you. So Maya Balakrishnan plans to major potentially in computer science, physics, and Spanish. Tara Balakrishnan, electrical engineering and computer science and economics. Rebecca Ballantyne, history or business. Michael Gilroy, mechanical engineering. Ben Keller, physics. Jihon Lee, biochemistry. Nolan Miller, electrical engineering. Ananya Murali, biochemistry and pharmacy. Preetam Nakaran, computer science. Kevin Parker, applied mathematics. Daruni Srinivas, doesn't know yet, has the world of opportunities. Sophia Xu, biology. Miriam Zeitz, English. Edward Zhang, mechanical engineering. So these are our National Merit semifinalists, soon to be finalists, I'm certain. Stay put. National Merit commended students recognized for exceptional academic promise, part of a national group of 50,000 students who scored exceptionally well on the PSAT. Their achievement is on a list, is listed on college applications. Rohit Arvind, economics. Landon Bennett, mathematics. Simon Borman, doesn't know yet, world of opportunities. Brianna Donkberg, business administration. Sarah Dew, psychology pre-med. Max Gardefee, computer science. Elisa Helm, undecided as yet. Rachel Horn, creative writing. Erica Kent, journalism and communication. Andrei Levanidov, business or political science. Alex Lynn, computer electrical engineering. Dante McLennan, Bachelor of Science in real-time interaction simulation. I have no idea what that means. Lex Mundell, biology. Kira O'Hearn, double major in English and history. Taylor Rao, engineering. Daniel Ruhana, pre-med. Ryan Wallace, applied mathematics. Kendall Wiggins, biology, evolution and ecology. Milo Wilkes, physics. Emma Wright, political science and history. Noah Wiley, electrical engineering. Adam Young, computer science. Andy Yu, business and engineering. Are we running out of room yet? Okay. Annie Yu, molecular biology. Elizabeth Zorn, computer science. Our National Merit commended scholars. Stay put, you guys. National Hispanic Recognition Program, recognized for exceptional academic promise as part of a national group of 50,000 students who also, same group, has scored exceptionally well in the PSAT from the junior year. Matthew Burns, Computer Science and Music. Jacqueline Montanana, Business. Felicia Romero, Physical Sciences. Next group, National Achievement Scholarship Program. These are outstanding participants, part of a group of 3,100 Black American students who performed well on the PSAT. Marissa Craig, Biology Pre-Med. Jasmine Kaimik, Political Science. Tiffany Kwakwa, Environmental Engineering. Congratulations to everybody. And before you all sit down, I'd like for your parents to stand and be recognized. Okay, you guys go home and study.
Can we just say wow?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I sort of ran out of breath.
Yeah, very, very, very impressive.
Thank you.
It's really, it's always exciting to see students honored for their accomplishments. It's not, the academics are tough and you guys are just right up there. We wish you all the best in your future. And we're going to take a 5-minute break so you may go home and prepare for school tomorrow. Keep up those grades. Here for baseball. Okay, now we're here for the public comment period of time. And I think everybody kind of heard my spiel earlier. I understand we have a little bit of a crossover between issues that are here for. If I'm correct, there's some people here to speak about the middle school softball piece. Am I right? A couple of you for that. Okay, and then the rest of you are here to speak about East Lake High School and Field, correct? Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask if you would come to the center microphone, and if you kind of make a line and each of you can do your speaking. We're going to give the total time for this whole topic 30 minutes. So there are about 15 to 20 of you that want to speak in that time. So you kind of figure out how long you can talk. You're shorting the person at the end of the line if you speak too long. It would be helpful if you don't each say the same thing that everybody else is saying. If you've got a new piece to add to it, to add information, that just helps, I think, get across more what you're trying to get to the board and to the district. And if that makes sense, why don't we have those of you who are here for the softball piece first, for the middle school, come forward first, and then the rest of you can start lining up behind on East Lake. I'm going to ask you to tell us your name when you come to the microphone. There will be if you look to my left here, you see a stop clock or, a stop sign like you're at the light. When the yellow light comes on, there's 3 minutes left. So whoever's at that 3 minutes, you're about done. So wind up your topic and then be through. And I have 2 other topics that'll be on at the tail end. Come on. Okay, so Diane, you want to start the clock? Okay, now we're going to have you, actually I'm going to ask for no PowerPoints or time-wise, we're not going to have it. Otherwise people are not going to have an opportunity to talk. Or it just makes it harder for people to get everybody a chance to speak. Okay, go ahead, your name and...
Judy McLaughlin. I'm going to have a daughter going to Inglewood.
Diane, are we on that center mic?
I can hear me. Everybody else can hear me?
Okay. I don't hear her, so.
Getting rid of softball in the junior high level is incredibly detrimental to these girls. They need something to keep them out of trouble. They need something to keep them focused, to give them somewhere to go. All these girls here behind me all play softball and they're all going to junior high next year, and they're all planning on playing for Inglewood. So to get rid of that is going to, well, they'll tell you how it's going to do to them. Go.
Save softball in LWSD middle schools because I want to play next year.
I want to play too.
Same here.
My name's Leah, and I think we should save softball because it's one of my favorite sports, and if we take it away, I'm going to be really sad.
Always love students. They can do it. Just get us their message right out. Okay, next group of folks for the fields. If you want to come forward and bring a group of, line up. As I said, you've got...
I'll start it off. My name is Matt Fitzgibbons. I live up in Sammamish. I have 3 kids that attend Blackwell Elementary, Inglewood Junior High, and next year Eastlake High School. I am also on the board at Eastlake Little League, and I'm a member of the Eastlake High School Booster Club. So we're very involved in volunteering, so I can appreciate where you guys come from along those lines. On a personal note, it was good to see all the chemical engineers here earlier. I'm also a chemical engineer from the UW, so it's good to see some nerds up here making a statement. Anyways, we'll get to it. I'll be quick. I own a pretty big business. I employ about 70 people, and I make a lot of decisions that make some people happy and make other people not so happy. So I try to put myself in your shoes. And when you're making a decision, obviously, you try to find, at least in my position, I try to find decisions that are win-wins for everybody. That's a term that's thrown around a lot in business, and especially in my business. And I believe that in this option, I don't think that we need to get rid of a dedicated field for Eastlake High School baseball, because I believe there's another alternative that will make everybody happy, and that's at Inglewood Junior High. There's a football field there that's going to be migrated and not used next year because those 9th grade kids are now going to be going to Eastlake High School next year. That football field is going to sit there. So if we find a way we can keep a dedicated baseball field for Eastlake High School, which is the only one on the plateau, and find additional lacrosse and soccer fields, which there's already 3 dedicated fields up on the plateau, everybody wins. And so I'd like you to consider that for that point. Thank you.
My name's Mike Prochalski, and I have 2 boys, one that's in high school at Eastlake and one that's in junior high that will be attending Eastlake. I'm looking at what's on the agenda in regards to the eliminating, potentially making that a community field. And when you look at Eastlake High School, we have 1 field that is regulation size for our kids to play on, and that is the high school field. And when I look at the hours they're talking about, would that be dedicated to baseball, which is really during the spring season when baseball goes on for the high school, it doesn't really help us when the majority of our kids, the smallest part of the baseball season for our kids is in the spring. The biggest part of the season for our kids is in the summer and the fall when the weather turns. They play more baseball in the summer and in the fall than any other time during the year. And not having full use of that field, 1, puts us at a disadvantage. 2, when I look at it from a consistency standpoint, if I'm correct, we have 4 high schools in Lake Washington school system. 3 of them do have a dedicated baseball field. We'd be the only high school in the school system, Lake Washington, that would not have a dedicated baseball field. I don't think that's fair to our athletes, and it puts us at a competitive disadvantage. On top of that, as just was mentioned, we do not have a public facility or a park in our city that allows a regulation-sized baseball field on it, where Kirkland, for Lake Washington, Juanita has Peter Kirk, and Redmond has Hartman, which are fully dedicated for baseball, on top of having a fully dedicated baseball field at the high school. So when I look at this, I think it's not fair to our kids and our athletes, whether they're playing Little League and they have aspirations to grow up and play in the high school, not to have that facility available year-round. I don't know where those programs and those kids would go to find a facility to be able to play at. So that's my comments. I think it's not fair for our kids, and what's best for the city is not always what's best for the kids that live in that high school system.
Okay, it'll be low-tech version since we don't have overheads. I got hard copy.
Thank you.
Real quickly, those in this room here that are associated with Eastlake Little League softball, please stand. Thank you very much.
Little League was founded in 1939 as a volunteer organization providing the opportunity for kids to play baseball at an early age. Today, 2.6 million kids play U.S. and other countries. 400,000 of those are girls playing softball. By all measures, this is an American institution. My name is Steve Pullis, VP of Softball for Eastlake Little League, home to 224 of those 400,000 girls. I've been volunteer VP for 5 years, managing all aspects of our program, from registration to recruiting, budget, interface with 13 other softball leagues, manage expenses, scheduling, game practice for some 22 teams, field care, coaching, and much more. As VP, I average about 800 hours a year in volunteer services to operate ELL, Eastlake Little League. My efforts resulted in a 2009 SAME Finalist Award for Youth Advocacy, a nomination that recognizes the appreciation my community has for my efforts. So I would consider myself knowledgeable in the sport of softball on the plateau. Our Little League softball district, Washington District 9, which has a couple associates here running it, covers the geography from North Bend to Mercer Island to Kirkland. All 13 Little Leagues in those communities offer in those communities. Our Eastlake Little League has been recognized as the most successful program of all 13 leagues. Only 2 programs in the past years have shown growth, Redmond Little League and Eastlake Little League, both coincidentally with fantastic facilities at little or no cost to the volunteer organization. I myself and Eastlake have 22 teams and 224 girls. To compare to our neighbors in Sammamish Little League, the zip code is the same, they only have 11 teams. One of the reasons our program is so strong is because our community relationship with the schools, Eastlake High School and Inglewood. I'm on slide 2 if you're following along up there. I have some wonderful pictures, and I went through a whole lot of laser print for that. Our league has invested money from Microsoft volunteer funds, slide 3, to purchase John Deere 4x4 to service the fields. We purchase golf fairway mowers to maintain the grass. We supply volunteer labor to operate the equipment, and we maintain the fields. And we even set up the fields and everything for Inglewood Junior High girls during their season, because we know the school district can't take care of that. Over several years, we've invested nearly $70,000 in volunteer hours, sweat equity to the rest of us, and money to improve fields such as building paths, installing scoreboards, building batting cages, slide 4, home run fence at Inglewood Junior High, dugouts, benches for players, bleachers for fans, literally building a field of dreams. We're the integral part of Eastlake and Inglewood softball programs. The 2008 EHS softball team represents the only 4A state championship Lake Washington School District team. 11 of the 14 girl players on that team started in Eastlake Little League. Thus, the Eastlake Little League program is built on 3 pillars: volunteers, value, and venues. We have 17, slide 6, 17, yes, slide 5, don't forget to get the names of those girls on the high school team. Slide 6, we have 72 great volunteers coaching girls and maintaining the field. Brian, this is one with you with the actual router, or the digger upper, you'd love that. The umpires, they do umpire, they're board members or coaches, we put a lot of hours in. Value, we strive to keep the fees low to keep Little League affordable for our families. Our budgets have very little room for field rental expense. The free time we get from EHS makes our league financially stable. Competing with well-funded select teams from other sports or communities will drive our costs up, our rates up, and eventually our participation will go down. Slide 7, venues. The field itself is a crown jewel of our program. All those in the audience, just imagine the field with the alternating cuts in the grass. It's, you know me, it looks great. Imagine the Field of Dreams where the movie they built the baseball field in an Iowa cornfield. Now, would it evoke the same wonder of a dream if they laid down some field turf? I don't think so. Softball is designed to be played on dirt fields. Just look at the University of Washington. At Eastlake, we have one of the few natural fields left on the east side. Turfing a field like this is like tearing down Safeco Field and building the Kingdome again, except with no dome. We create a great venue, slide 8. We put team names on the scoreboard. We place team banners and home run fences. We even find a way one day a season to bring up little girls, ages 7 and 8, and they play on the varsity field, and their eyes are as big as dishes. They love it. We really create a dream, and we create a venue where those girls dream to someday play for Eastlake. How many of my girls here are hoping to do that someday, to play for the high school? That's what it's all about. There are issues here tonight. 1, turf the field will drive the cost up of the recreational Little League budget into a select budget. The days of no cut, everyone plays a community sport will be priced out by well-funded private teams. After turfing the field, infield, it will follow a cost will likely turf the outfield. And we will exceed the current $55 an hour, making softball games and practice times impossible to fund with a budget from 224 girls. The girls' sport selection of soccer, volleyball, and softball We'll lose softball over time as it degrades to a second-tier sport. Issue number 2, the city will control the field scheduling, and playing time will go to any team with $1 from Issaquah to Woodinville. The flexibility of Little League had to schedule practice times and games and tournaments will be lost to the competition from other communities. The Little League community amenities we have built at Eastlake, such as the banners and having our youngest players play on certain a day, that will all go away. What I hope you see here is what appears to be progress with all-weather fields can actually be leading to the demise of a long-existing community volunteer sport. If you create a business sport environment with these fields, Little League softball and baseball cannot compete, and you're effectively killing or greatly reducing Eastlake Little League, the very foundation and feeder system to the high school, the foundation that led to that 2008 4A championship. When you compete with 4A schools, you need a large base at the bottom to create an elite athletes at the top. So in effect, if you look at the long term, what we do here today can help or hurt the sports in 6 years from now. This past June, there was an issue regarding field time at Skyline Community Fields in Issaquah School District. Councilwoman Nancy Whitten stated during the controversy, I think there are ways, this is my best invitation of her voice, I think there are ways we can work together, she said. It just needs to be thought through a little bit more. This is the case where we need to work together and provide more thought tonight. There is a solution, as mentioned before, up at Inglewood. It will provide that one lacrosse soccer field that you have plotted out down at the Eastlake field. Inglewood High and Junior High will not be playing anymore, so I'm not going to, that's already been rehashed, so I won't do anymore. Thank you very much, and I appreciate your time.
I'm Janice Christensen, Assistant District Administrator for District 9 Little League softball program. Eastlake Little League softball has grown steadily during the past several years to where it is one of, if not the strongest softball program within District 9 Little League. While some of the other leagues have struggled with their numbers, Eastlake has grown and become a stronger program. In looking at the reasons, it comes down to some major things that they do in their community. They've been able to maintain and keep costs down. They've developed a strong volunteer program. They have been able to maintain top-notch venues for the girls to play on. They go over and beyond in making their softball girls feel an important part of the community and to be proud of playing Little League. District 9 holds several tournaments each year, and Eastlake has always been willing to put the time and the effort into this. Whenever games are played at these facilities, people from other areas in the district are always in awe of what Eastlake Little League has done. Numbers are dropping in softball, and there are many reasons for that. But field availability, scheduling, problems with venues, lack of volunteer groups are a few of the major reasons. If the school district is going to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars into turfing a field, they will need to recoup that money. And to do that, the field costs to use those fields are going to go up. People will not be able to afford to put their kids in Little League because of that. So you're going to lose your volunteer base. The availability of the fields will no longer be used for that community, but anyone who wants to rent those and pay the money can go there. Therefore, the field availability within that community is going to be decreased. Little League is an organization for the kids. We are not in the sports business of making money. And last but not least, softball is not a game that was meant to be played on a plastic field. Thanks.
Can I just ask for a point of clarification? Several people have asked about, are you speaking to the baseball field resurfacing, or are you speaking to the middle school sports issue? I'm confused.
The baseball field resurfacing has been the last. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll cut mine down to a minute because I think Steve took about 5 or 6. So this is in response to Addendum 2 on the multi-purpose use of the Eastlake Fields. My name is Greg Kirchhoff. I'm a resident of Sammamish. I have 2 children, age 10, a boy, and 8, a girl. I'm impacted both from the baseball and the softball side of things. I grew up in the Bellevue School District. I attended Newport High School, and I played baseball there, and as well as at the University of Washington. I'd like to say from a former player's perspective and someone who grew up in the area, the concept of a dedicated field is quite important. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, there's lots of things that are troubling our society, and talking about sports may seem inconsequential. But sports is actually the backbone of a lot of things that, as parents, we try to instill in our children. The concept of having a dedicated field for baseball and softball is an important one. In fact, in the Lake Washington School District, I don't believe that there's any school that does not have a dedicated field. The only one out of all AAA and 4A schools that I know of that uses a multi-purpose field is in Montlake. And they handled the situation a little bit differently, whereas they allowed the school, the baseball and the softball teams, to manage the schedules. So for today, I thought I'd talk about just a few points here. I won't talk about some of the environmental impact, which I believe is of an issue on the right field side of the field, on the baseball field, which hasn't been really investigated by the community. I'd really like to ask for the board to consider this before voting and ask for a little more transparency when we start to think about these things. There's a tremendous amount of effort that evidently has gone on in terms of the planning, yet there's only a small number of parents that were notified about this, and that's why you only get about 40 of us here tonight. If we'd had a little more time, I'm sure we could have filled a little more of your seats. I'd like the board to consider this and put a little more thought into this before passing this, and I thank you for your time.
My name is Glenn Bowers. I'm a citizen of the city of Sammamish, and I have two young kids in the Lake Washington School District. One son 10, one son's 8, and I'd like to voice my concern about the renovations that are being proposed. I've already talked about that there are other venues available to do these types of renovations that would have less impact to the children coming up through the system. But also, as Greg's point, I'd like to understand a little bit more about what is being proposed for the field, because I do have safety concerns as well, but beyond the environmental concerns, that this needs to remain as a baseball-first facility, which means natural mound, so forth. Also, that if this does go forward, you need to make sure that the safety of the players and the safety of the fans are taken into account, which means you have to have natural dugouts, you need to have bullpens, you need to have facilities where kids can play the game of baseball safely. So, again, we ask that you provide more information on what this would look like and keep baseball in mind first. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for letting me speak. My name is Brian Bodine, and I have two sons at Rachel Carson Elementary School in the Sammamish Plateau. And what I'm afraid may be getting lost here is that sports, just like school, is a learning experience. And from one who, I'm the umpire-in-chief of Eastlake Little League as well, and having seen a number of games at all levels, I can tell you that the lessons that kids learn in teamwork and in sportsmanship and working together is extremely important. And I don't want to see anything happen that will diminish their opportunities. My fear is if we don't have a dedicated field, then that's going to negatively impact us at the Eastlake Little League level, and it's going to make it harder to field a team. I don't think that I can put it any better than what I heard the players say, and that is, let's just let them play. Thank you.
Thank you for your time this evening. My name is Joseph Johnson. I'm president of Eastlake Sammamish Baseball Association, a nonprofit 501c3 organization for youth sports. I live in the Sammamish area, lived there over 17 years, have four children in the school district. One now is at UW as a sophomore, one's a junior at Eastlake. The other two are at Inglewood right now. We kind of started out at Smith and Inglewood and then Eastlake. Here this evening just to talk about, if I look at it from a select baseball, we represent 112 families from the ages of 10 up to 18. It would benefit us to have this turfed. We can go to the city, we can get time slots on there. Been doing this for 8 years. I work with the Lake Washington School District and your administration who handles fields, John Bailey and the team down there when you apply and follow your guidelines. I work with King County for Mary Moore. I work with North Shore School District, every school to Issaquah and Tibbetts and how they handle. So you work with a lot of different organizations. The one thing I'd have to say to you is from the school perspective, that baseball field, much like the football field or even the softball field, any of the fields, it's part of the school. It's part of that function. It's their home ground. Yes, you have the multi-purpose between it that the school district did a great job working with the city on. The difference here is that it is the baseball field for that sport. Okay. If you're looking at trying to fit more sports into areas, Why wouldn't you just put the kids up on and rent the time out on the Eastlake football field? Then I'm sure you'd have lines of people here on the football field. But that's treated separately. All the sports should be treated the same. Baseball's no different. All natural baseball field is a completely different experience for players, and it's real baseball. It's how baseball was meant to play. A ball running on the outfield hitting the ground is going to slow down if it's wet and hit versus some multi-purpose when you watch it skip across, let alone if there's no fence on the multi-purpose field and it just keeps rolling and rolling and rolling. Much like the multi-purpose field. So the point here I'd like to make tonight is even though that we could benefit it, I guess I'd have to say our organization is supportive of the school district keeping its field. Utilize your booster clubs and your programs that are very active. You've heard many speakers tonight talk about their volunteering hours, what they put in to help maintain and work on the fields. The same thing occurs here as well. I believe you do have other options. I understand the city will look at things as far as they have to take care of the environmental. That's not yours. They got to take care of the responsibilities there for dealing with the wetlands. So there's certain things you don't necessarily have to worry about because the city will function. Scheduling fields, 5:15, 5:30, wait till the rainouts. Wait till things occur in the school. The coaches need to move things to other dates and then watch the city schedules, how they all fluctuate. And teams are having problems and people get upset at each other. It's how it works. It's just the nature of it. Trying to put in credit hours and things of that nature to actually try to fix a problem you know exists, it doesn't work well. I've experienced it with North Shore School District. I pay the prices today on the King County fields, the rents we pay on those to play a baseball game just to be on a field of over $255 for a game. That's very expensive for kids. So at least at the baseball experience, not all kids get the opportunity to play in select baseball, move on. The school is different. It takes everyone. It lets everyone try out, everyone get an option. Those things will slowly change for you because kids will gravitate to other programs instead of the school. I would say look at the recommendation, even though the city has said that they've indicated that Englewood Junior High is one of the options we looked at. It was not seriously looked at. And then with the changes that have occurred in our school district, with 9th grade moving up, okay, the middle school now at Englewood Junior gives more options in there for both the baseball field and the football field. They should reconsider that option there. Please reconsider your vote or however you end up handling this addendum as you move forward. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for your time. My name is Mike Stahl, and I'm a parent of a current Eastlake High School student, a baseball player. It's a second student that's gone through the school. I can't add a lot to the qualitative discussions that have happened tonight. What I can talk about, though, is process, in that I have met with Jesse Richardson, who's in charge of the Parks and Recs at the city of Sammamish, and the concerning part to me is that the council's criteria was to get the support of 80% of the residences around the high school. Now you got 80% against it. I'm really kind of curious as to how and why that whole process went forward, how this is going forward when you're violating your own processes. On top of that, the fiscal responsibility aspects here, there's a multitude of creative solutions and opportunities on how to bridge that, and I understand that we're all dealing with fiscal issues here. I run a company of 400 employees, so I totally get that. But the most important part here as the school board is to contribute to the development of our young men and women, and taking this field away from a dedicated use for all the reasons that have been outlined here earlier tonight would be a disservice to the community and a disservice to everyone that's involved. We just want the chance to work together for a solution that works for everyone and not just the school district. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mike Napick, and I'm a resident of Sammamish. I have 3 children in the Lake Washington School District, and at the risk of repeating some of the things that have been said before, I understand the appeal to the school district to take advantage of the city's offer to take over management of a field, dedicating resources and money that the school district doesn't have and taking essentially a problem away from the school district. But what I'd encourage you to do is to consider why the city's offering it and what's best for the students of the school district, not what's best for the city. As the school district, you're elected in volunteering to represent the students, not the city of Sammamish. And so while they may think it's best to turf a baseball field to make it available for soccer and lacrosse, there are other options available. And from a school district standpoint, you have a field at Inglewood Junior High School that's going to become unused. That if you polled the community and said, do you care if we turf the Inglewood Junior High football field, my guess is you wouldn't see a whole lot of people here because there isn't an Inglewood Junior High football team anymore. And so from that standpoint, from the school district standpoint, not from the city's view of things, the Inglewood Junior High field makes much more sense from a school district standpoint. I understand why the city wants to do what it wants to do, but from our standpoint, from the school district standpoint, I don't think it makes sense. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Patty Padden. I wanted to come up because I think I'm the only parent here that actually represents a girl that is on the Eastlake Fast Pitch team. We have some Eastlake Little Leaguers here. We have some baseball parents here, but I think I'm the only one that represents an actual girl that was on the Fast Pitch team. And so I just kind of want to talk to you real quickly, because I don't want the yellow light to go on, about her experience. Prior to me being on the Booster Club and prior to Steve being on the board, I actually was on the board. He took my spot. Thank you, by the way. So from my perspective and my daughter's perspective, going to high school and playing on those fields that she saw as her crowning glory at the high school, it was hugely impacted. My daughter has played sports year-round since she was in 3rd grade. She's a junior this year. Basketball, soccer, and softball. She's played on an ASA softball team. That's kind of her thing. So to turf the fields, softball field, as well as a baseball field, and from a Booster Club perspective, as well as a parent, I really feel like this decision has not come to while looking at all perspectives. I think that there are options available to the Lake Washington School District, and they absolutely need to be investigated. They need to be looked at, re-looked at, and looked at again. We have options. We have Inglewood. We've all said that. And I hate for anything at the high school to be taken away from our high schoolers. They've been waiting to get there. They want it. The baseball boys want their dedicated field. Our softball girls want their dedicated field. Do we need more field space? Absolutely. I think everybody here from the Plateau can attest to the fact that we do not have enough field space for all of our sports. But while we have other options, and I think those need to be looked at before the board decides to make a decision to move forward and taking something away and then leaving empty space at Inglewood. So I would just ask that this decision would not be made, not that you are, lightly, but that maybe some more investigation into this would be made. So, thank you.
Okay, is that all of you? Dr. Kimball, did you want to make any comments on this?
Thank you, all of you who came tonight in order to address this issue. Obviously, these are complex issues that are wrought with competing priorities. And we don't take this lightly. When my team was investigating these issues in collaboration with the city of Sammamish, lots of options were considered and lots of options were talked about. So I want to talk a little bit about the scope of the project and what it really means, because I think that there's some misunderstanding in the community around the scope of the project. So what is being proposed is that the existing turf baseball field, and you have a map in front of you, be overlaid with artificial turf such that we can put a regulation-sized soccer field so that soccer and rugby can be played on that field as well as baseball. The softball field, the Eastlake High School turf softball field, will not be touched. So there was a lot of testimony about softball. This does not impact softball. This is about the baseball field only. Excuse me?
The drawing had turf on the softball field. Is that incorrect?
Nothing is being natural turf varsity softball field. There's no plans to put turf on the softball field. So
We must have an old drawing.
okay, so the scope of the project today is turf on the baseball field, the softball field is not touched. Some questions came up in the conversations with the baseball community around dugouts. Are the dugouts going to be moved, changed, et cetera? The dugouts are not going to be touched because that's an important component of the baseball program. There was also, interestingly enough, I learned more about baseball than I knew previously, a lot of issue around the pitcher's mound, because sometimes with artificial fields and multi-use fields, they create a pitcher mound that is essentially a plastic pitcher mound that can be removed. The project scope is there's a commitment to a dirt pitcher's mound that is a permanent dirt pitcher's mound. Again, an important component to make sure that baseball is baseball and it's not compromised that way. Because if you look at the drawing, the infield is not overlaid where the soccer field is. So if you look at the drawing, that's correct. Yes. And so 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 the yellow is you've got the infield, and so a portion of the soccer field line goes right about where second base is through the infield, but the pitcher's mound, which is on the left-hand side of the drawing, that little circle, that is dirt, and it stays there, and it's permanent. So,
Can you put that map up so we can see what you're talking about?
Diane, you can go ahead and put that on. And just so you guys know, I'm not going to respond to questions. At this point, we've taken public testimony. I'm having a conversation with the board, so just know that that's the way we're going to do it. So Diane, if you could put that up, that'd be great.
What's the red blob at the around second base?
Forrest, what is the red squiggly line around second base?
All it refers to is the overlap of the field, of the soccer field with the baseball.
Okay. Okay, so I think that they're trying to indicate the area of concern.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we have, what we have in terms of scope of project is the overlay of the soccer/rugby field that you see is a lacrosse field, excuse me, is primarily in the outfield. And as we did our research, we also know that that outfield during certain times of the year is too soggy to play. So in my interview with the high school principal, he indicated that a number of games are canceled or moved because of the sogginess of the field. So the baseball games, because it's only been used for baseball up to now. And so what this does for us is it creates a multi-use environment. It creates a better, from a weather perspective, environment from a baseball perspective, although it's not a real turf, it is an artificial turf, and there's certainly people that would argue that that's not a desirable environment for baseball. The softball's not touched, the dugouts are not touched, the pitcher's mound is not touched. So when we started evaluating, one of the questions that came up was why not Inglewood? The city did look at Inglewood, and what they were concerned about was increased traffic issues. That road is already a significant problem from a traffic perspective. There's also issues with increased cost to do it in Inglewood, and then lastly was that there's already an existing bathroom facility that the city has already paid for and constructed at Eastlake. Therefore, it makes Eastlake High School a more desirable location. We also, what also came up was so in addition to the turf, there also will be lighting, so that after 4 o'clock at this time of year, this field can actually be used into the evening, which extends the hours of usage for that field. There, of course, are concerns about the hours so that you don't have blaring lights at midnight for the neighborhood. And so the city has also made commitments to making sure that those hours are not too late into the evening. I believe 7 p.m., but I don't know that for sure. I'm looking at Forrest. He'll have to confirm what the hour commitment was as it relates to the agreement with the city. So that's the scope of the project. And so in bringing this recommendation to you, I'm bringing it with the knowing that there have been many options that have been looked at, and the city is wanting to work with us collaboratively in order to make this investment. This investment is about $2 million that the city is willing to make on our behalf. A number of what this comes down to, from my perspective, is when the needs of the few are balanced against the needs of many. And as a school system, our objective is to meet many students' needs, not just small populations of needs. And so my recommendation comes acknowledging that there will be no longer be a dedicated baseball field for baseball only. However, somebody said baseball first. There's a commitment on the part of Eastlake High School that baseball does come first, but the difference is it's not baseball only. Baseball first is fine, but baseball only, not so much. And Eastlake High School baseball is absolutely the first priority, and then other community uses like Little League Baseball, like community-based soccer, like community-based lacrosse, all fit into the tapestry of what happens in this part of the district, where there are limited fields, limited resources, and we're trying to work together. The last comment that I'd like to make a comment on had to do with single-function facilities. We don't have single-function facilities. If you look at the football field, it's shared with track and soccer. If you look at the gym, it's shared with basketball and volleyball. If you look at our pool, it is not committed to, it's committed certainly to only water activities, but it's committed to community use water activities. It's committed to swim parties as well as swim team. Every one of our very expensive, very valuable resources is committed to multi-use because the environment doesn't allow us to do that anymore. So this is an example of that taking place. So my recommendation to the board is to pass the resolution tonight for an interlocal agreement with the City of Sammamish. The City of Sammamish will be considering this at their upcoming City Council meeting. We believe this has been well thought out. This is a good proposal for the community. It's a good proposal for the district. And we are interested in working hard with the baseball community to make sure that their needs are met using a multi-use field. Please.
Yeah, likewise.
And I hadn't seen this before. And mine have always to do with the multi-use agreements. So this is saying that we have exclusive use or first priority till 5:15, and then the city does their scheduling. Do we still have in our contract that our kids come first, and our youth groups come before adult leagues?
Yes.
And all of that?
Yeah, and that's consistent with our other community facility use agreements in the
So
district.
is this a supplement to our other facility use agreements?
This is one that's required for this field. It is consistent with our other facilities. So we don't have one in place now for, why this one for us? Is it different than our other ones?
Just because the other one does not cover
The field.
It covers the existing
Yeah.
field, not this present.
Well, I guess I'd be concerned to make sure that we're not causing a problem here, because we've worked so carefully on the language to make sure that youth groups, kids groups come first over adult groups. I didn't see it here, but I didn't, in that. Janine's not here tonight?
The intention, no, Janine's ill. The intentions with the agreement are to be consistent with our other facility
Policies.
agreements, where we have Lake Washington teams first, kid groups second, and then community groups third, and that we navigate those times accordingly.
And prior to making this alteration, was it, who used this field?
Baseball and Little League.
That was it?
Yeah.
So now,
Little League doesn't use a large field. It's just
Baseball.
baseball.
with respect.
So basically, this will mean that we'll have another soccer field and we'll have a lacrosse.
Well, the soccer field and lacrosse is the same field. In other words, soccer and lacrosse can be played on this when baseball is not being played on it.
Okay.
That's
and
the
then
intention.
The softballs are smaller fields?
So the softball is in the upper left corner, so existing natural turf varsity softball field.
Are they going to
And,
do work on the drainage to make sure this works?
Forrest is nodding yes, that the drainage is part of that.
And do we know and this really is not for the audience, this is really for Forrest and Chip. Our other softball, I mean, this is the trend. I know there was a huge outcry when football moved to artificial turf.
Right.
But I've worked long enough in this field to know that artificial turf seems, as much as people don't like it, it means you play year-round and you don't use the chemicals to maintain the fields.
Yeah, I'm not an expert in field caretaking, so I probably shouldn't answer very deeply on that. But that is the intention: is to create an environment where more kids can play into the evening and more in the year. Because again, in my talking with the principal at Eastlake, he did indicate that the outfield on this field, even as well as it's taken care of, is not playable
draining
because of the water and the soggy outfield. And so this would resolve that issue and hopefully resolve the need to reschedule some games, especially early in the spring.
Can I ask Forrest if...
Forrest, is that consistent with your...
Are other places going to artificial turf for softball? Do you know?
Okay, and just a correction, this is not softball, this is
Or
baseball.
okay.
Softball
I'm interested
is
in the
being left
playing,
as
not-
is.
You don't know? Okay.
And I guess I'm going to ask the question of, since this is a high school baseball field first,
Yes.
what do the high school baseball coaches who will be using this field, what's their thought behind this? I'm assuming that they have bought into this. I don't know.
Sure.
Excuse me, I do not care to hear from the audience any further. Thank you.
So I think, as you would expect, if you're a high school baseball coach and you have a committed turf field versus having an artificial field, you're gonna not like it as much as what you currently have. So that would be expected. Our baseball coaches are committed, fine people who are certainly willing to support the district direction and think this is good for all kids. But they, of course, would prefer to have their own field and have it be turf.
Well, so would everybody else. but-
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as you know, I've
We have
been
that much land.
a strong supporter of the interlocal agreement with the city, as I am a Sammamish resident. But I guess there's a couple of things I'd request, and one of them's in the interest of transparency, is that one of our staff, and maybe the appropriate city staff as well, walk through that area with the interested parties to show that, that this indeed is going to remain a natural turf field. I think that would be helpful.
You mean the
I don't know
softball
what you
field?
meant to say.
Okay, yeah.
And I think that would be a helpful thing in establishing, some credibility and transparency. The other thing is, and I don't know if this question can be answered tonight, but I am concerned about as we move towards, as we do the transition with the Englewood Junior High into a middle school, that the uses of the various fields around that school do kind of make that transition as well, to the appropriate use. And so I'm not sure, maybe there's a good answer, maybe that thinking has gone is fully developed, but I have a sense that that's still something that will evolve over time.
Yeah.
And so I think as we look at the appropriate long-term uses of those fields now that it's becoming a middle school, that we take into consideration some of the other community needs as well as the needs that will go with the fact that it's a middle school. I don't think that this agreement will preclude that, but I think certainly that's something I'm going to be continuing to be interested in, is to make sure that that's being taken into consideration. But I think the thing that I would insist on for my support with this tonight is that we do have an opportunity for the interested parties to walk that area so that they can see that, we're not pulling any funny, fast ones on them.
Yeah.
And I just would piggyback on the fields at the middle schools. Inglewood's not the only one that's going to be impacted with a football field that's no longer used. So I'd be curious what the plans are in the middle schools. Finn Hill is not putting one in because they just remodeled and don't need to put one in. But we have several schools that have them, so I'd be interested to know what the plans will be in the future for use of those fields.
Yeah,
on the school and the community.
I don't know, but I might venture to guess if East Lake is any indication, and some of our other those fields, are used for soccer and other activities. But again, I can get information to the board on what current junior high school fields are used for, and then what is projected use after we move to the middle school model. And I would anticipate, quite honestly, that the cities and other youth organizations are going to continue to want to work with us around Inglewood specifically, knowing that we have significant traffic issues up on the plateau, that we are constantly trying to work with the city on how do we mitigate those traffic issues.
But I think the strong message, at least I would like to see us send tonight, is that, one, that we're, again, in the interest of transparency, showing the community that this softball field will remain a natural turf field, and two, that this agreement that I think we'll adopt tonight will not preclude other uses down the road for Inglewood fields. Yeah.
Well, I think that's good, but I think the main rub here is that a dedicated baseball field that's traditional is going to become non-traditional. And I just did some brief history, and I've been involved with the issue of artificial turf for a long time, and I know that it's a very controversial thing, but I just think that we have to look at the things that you said. We need more playing fields, and we need fields that aren't rained out, and we need fields that are easier to maintain, and we have to have multiple use fields, and sometimes we have to give up and move ahead. And I think these are the fields that we're going to be seeing more and more in the future. It's unfortunate, but I think it's what we're going to have to do. And I think it's unfortunate, too, because this has happened at the same time as the whole middle school athletics thing is coming to play. So it's kind of two big issues involving the same area of sports at the same time has made it particularly difficult. I do hope, I have some concerns on costs in terms of how much leeway does the city have to charge rentals for our fields?
So the fee schedule is our fee
I thought
schedule.
it was our fee
Yeah,
schedule.
it's controlled by us.
So they're paying for this installation. That's not going to affect our fee schedule.
No.
So in terms of field availability, this is not going to impact baseball, softball, or any other sports in terms of field availability.
Well, again,
it's not going to decrease.
Right. Again, softball's another.
Right. They're in another
issue.
place. It's not going to decrease baseball.
No, no, it won't. I think the biggest issue that is going to emerge is when you have a game that is, as they described it, when you have a game that's rained out, or you want an extra practice, as opposed to just walking over to the field and unlocking the gate and being able to have that practice because it's a committed field.
I see.
Now, there's somebody who's scheduled on the field and you can't use it because they're already on the field. It's going to make scheduling more complex, but I don't think it is going to result in less use. And as a matter of fact, I might make the argument that because it's artificial during the early spring in particular, it may actually increase the availability for the baseball program. But, and there's a lot yet to be seen. And those are complexities that when you're in an environment where you have trying to meet the interests of multiple populations in our community. So I would say that if we had a big public meeting around soccer, we would have just as many people here from the soccer community arguing for an additional soccer field as we have the baseball community arguing to save the baseball field. It's a tough issue. I mean, this is not one of my favorite things to be talking about, but that's what happens when you have diminishing resources and increased demand in in an environment where property and money are scarce.
And I do want to clarify, because I know what the use is, how it is in Kirkland. Remind me, isn't there a percentage of resident for the people asking to use the field? There has to be a percentage of those people that reside within the city of Sammamish or Kirkland or Redmond or wherever? The district, within the district.
Yeah.
So if you are a Woodinville Little League and you have no district people, you're not going to make it to the top of the list very quickly.
Right, you can ask, but you're at the bottom of the list.
Okay, that's what I thought. I want to be clear.
You can ask, but you're at the bottom
I
of the
just
list.
wanted to clarify that because they came up with it. So it is district residents that predominantly, which is 60 plus or whatever the percentage is that it's in our agreements.
Yep.
Having worked on that a long time ago. Okay, if we're done with this one, I have two more people who are here to speak. Each of you will have 3 minutes. The first person, I'm sorry I cannot read your name, but it's about the award for the secondary STEM school. If you'd come forward and tell us your name. And then you may speak for 3 minutes.
Does it say Susan Wilkins?
You'll be next.
Oh, I'm after that?
You're after them, yes. Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The name you couldn't read was Timon Berger.
Okay.
I'm an attorney and I represent Berkshire Phillips. I'm actually joined here by Jim Phillips here tonight, who's a principal with Berkshire Phillips as well. And of course, we're here to talk to you about the secondary STEM school project and its awards. We understand there's an award that you guys are intending to hand out to Absher. And just wanted to give you guys a brief outline of how this is going to work. This comes down to statute 3930.060, which is the subcontractor listing statute. And that statute's been in place for a long time, and it's had two components to it. One has gone through various revisions, but one of the main components that hasn't changed has been that for a bid to be responsive, you have to put on your bid the electrical contractor that you're going to use. And that electrical contractor needs to be a licensed electrical contractor that does electrical business. And in this case, Absher had placed on their bid the name of the manufacturer of the modular units themselves. Now, this manufacturer is not an electrician, is not a licensed electrician, and doesn't meet the qualifications to be an electrical subcontractor. And the fact that that modular space was put in there as the electrical subcontractor, by the terms of the statute alone, makes that a non-responsive bid. There are bid protest arguments, and there's a lot of them. I do this a lot, and they are on the far end. They're the reach arguments. But in this case, this is about as cut and dry as a bid protest argument gets. The requirement from the statute is you have to list your subcontractor that's performing the electrical work. And in this case, Absher, who's not the apparent low that's going to get the bid, didn't do that. And awarding to them is simply illegal because their bid turns into a non-responsive bid. The only responsible bidder in this case is Berkshire Phillips, and they're the ones entitled to the award of this project. I'm happy to take your questions at this point, but it comes down to the very basics of that statute, and it's saying what constitutes a responsible bid and a responsive bid, most importantly. And in this case, Absher did not have a responsive bid because they did not include, an electrical subcontractor that is in fact licensed to perform electrical subcontracting work. Compare and contrast that to Berkshire Phillips, where they have an electrician who is there. When the electrical moves outside, there's been some talk about they're modular units. That's fine. Berkshire Phillips has, in fact, its own manufacturer of these modular units. Think of them as goods, much like a car. They're made on an assembly line. The electrical that goes inside of those modular units, they do not fall within the 3930.060 subcontractor listing statute. But when you have that electrical that's going outside of it, and it requires you to make hookups of those modular units, it is now a public project, and it now requires a listing of your licensed subcontractor that's going to do the work. So, those are the comments I have.
Okay.
Any questions?
No questions.
No.
You make a statement?
I'll make a statement to the board. We, of course, after a bid protest like this, would do a legal review. We had our attorney do a legal review. That statute that's referred to, it is not clear that this would apply to the modular units that we put into the bid package. The bid that you have in front of you is both the low bid and, according to our attorney, meets all the qualifications of the bid requirements as prescribed in the law. We, when we're notified of the bid, gave Berkshire Phillips our response to that. They had 2 days in order to get an injunction from a judge that would indicate that it was not a legal bid. We, as of 5:30 this evening, have not received such an injunction, so the board does have full authority to go ahead and approve the bid. And I do have David Alskog here should you have any additional questions, but I do believe that we are both within the confines of the law, and I think a judge would hold in our favor, and my recommendation is to award the bid to the lowest bidder, who we believe is fully qualified to execute this project.
But just again, for the record, our attorney would defend the fact that it is a responsive bid.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And since we're on the record, let me just put down there, Berkshire Phillips does not agree that, in fact, you are in compliance, that the board would be in compliance with the 2-day rule. That 2-day rule, it does not say what you're saying. It says when a protest is made within 2 days, which occurred in this case, you then owe 2 days notice prior to the execution of the contract. So at this point, if you guys decide to award it, we're still entitled to those 2 days to get the injunctive relief that the board's speaking of tonight. So we haven't tried, just for the record, we haven't moved into that 2-day period where we're required to go to court. That starts when you guys to make the formal decision to make the award. Then we get 2 days to go to court to stop the signing of that contract. I'm just saying on the record, I'm not asking to challenge the board, but I just want to make that objection.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay. Next person I have is Susan Wilkins.
I'm Susan Wilkins, and I wanted to talk about the STEM school, the conditional
Could you
use.
speak up, please? I can't.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now? Yes. Okay. On November 10th, the school district received its conditional use of permit approval from King County, and it was appealed last Monday, the 28th. And so while it's in the appeal process, it's not. Is there any rush to approve the bid at this point? Not only will it be appealed, and that certainly takes time, there's also possibly appeal to the Growth Management Hearing Board, and then the School Siting Task Force that was created by the Growth Management Planning Commission on September 21st might also, well, they've received a recommendation that rural schools should be for only rural students. So you can build it, and then only rural students can attend. So maybe it's not in the best interest of the Lake Washington School District to build a school that might be limited to only rural students, because it is outside the growth management boundary. The second thing I have to question is how much money you've spent so far. Redmond High School is going to cost close to $19 million. Now, there's the project cost, which is $9.7 million, or the construction cost, which is $9.7 million, but the project cost is almost twice that. East Lake High School, $10 million construction cost, $20 million project cost. With the STEM school, your construction bid is $24 million. That's $44 million construction, $38 million already on additional project costs. That's $75 million. Do you even have enough money to build this school? Have you gone down your list of everything you've spent so far on the 2 high school additions? Do you have enough money once you're finished with the construction bid to actually pay for all the permits? You should do your accounting before you approve this project. Now, here's another suggestion is DigiPen on Willows Road recently went into a large building that they're renting. However, there are lots and lots of buildings, well, not lots, there are buildings for sale in the area where you could buy the building, it's already built, convert it to a STEM school. You would probably still have money left over. If you look at the area where Mike Town was in Washington, D.C., that was 6 million people. I think 5 different school districts contributed to their STEM school. If you put it way out in rural King County, then Bellevue, Issaquah, all the other school districts can't participate in a consortium of schools. Rather than rushing into approving the bid tonight, I'm asking you to wait and consider until your appeal is received, or until the appeal is resolved.
Thank you very much. Okay, I am going to allow 1 more minute. We have been at this an hour. We need to get our business done, and I'd like to get my board at least home tonight.
Okay, I don't think that's fair, but that's fine.
Well, I don't care if you, at this point in time, it's been an hour.
What's going on? Hi, okay, Jackie, fine. Bob Yoder, Education Hill. I want to second the motion of Susan Wilkins. I think it's a tremendous idea. I still think there's time for you to make this change. At least consider the Willows Road option, that area. You've got 3 high schools right around that area, okay? Why do we have to leap into one big, wonderful STEM school? Why can't we just take steps into the STEM school by going to renting some space? That's all I encourage you to do is look into it. Best spend a week if you're going to wait for the bidders to look at their bidding. Take some time, board, please, and look at that option. I think a lot of people would be happy if we could have the STEM school closer. Kids will have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Okay. Do you want to break or do it? Consent at this time first?
Let's
do consent and then break.
Well, and I think before we take up the consent agenda, I think we should, kind of for the record, assure the community that, this whole STEM school project is not just something that somebody pulled out of the back of their pocket last night. And I think it's important to, again, going back to the issue surrounding the capital bond issue and then the subsequent capital levy that we had to do to get this thing off the ground. I think it would be good just to briefly remind the community that, again, this is not something that we just thought up out of thin air overnight.
And I'd also, the voters did vote for it to be the dollars to be specifically used in this way, and that has been our practice as a board as long as I know, when capital dollars have been voted on very specifically for various projects. Those are the projects that we spend the dollars on. As a board, we have not taken that money and then gone and said, well, we don't want to do that, let's go do this instead. And so I think that would be against our wishes of our voters who voted for the bond.
And just for the record, the issue of finding an abandoned warehouse in order to do the school, we actually scoured the entire inside of the entire Lake Washington School District boundaries and could not find a piece of property that would house the number of kids and have adequate parking and meet traffic concurrency requirements and was zoned in a way that we could have kids in the school. Warehouses are not zoned for kids. So we actually scoured the entire district to find a place as an alternative should we not be able to get permitted by the Union Hill Water Association, King County, and others. So I just want to assure the board, we've actually exhausted the options.
Well, not only have we done that, we also have been planning. This is not just another choice school. This is a school designed not only to meet a need in terms of STEM education, but also to meet a capacity need.
Yeah.
And in terms of the location, you know, so far we also get criticized because so many of our choice schools are on the other side of the district. Space is at a premium in this district, and frankly, this is a fairly good location that I hope will actually work out. And as far as the bid goes, you know, we are legally obligated to follow the law as represented by our attorney. We are not attorneys, and we are not making decisions that attorneys make. We will do what our attorney recommends, and
Then leave it to?
then we leave it to the attorneys.
To the attorneys. Okay. Any further comments before I ask for a motion for consent agenda?
Again, I'll make a motion to adopt the consent agenda, and again, the concerns I expressed about the joint use agreement, I hope will be honored, and I certainly will work with all the interested parties to make sure that, one, that we maintain our transparency and concern of the use of that field, and two, that the future uses of Englewood, soon to be middle school, take into consideration the changing needs of not only the school but the community as well.
It's your last night. I didn't want to step in.
Well, if I thought that you guys were wrong, I would have jumped in.
Yeah. Well, I think she was asking for your second on his motion.
Oh, yes.
This is not comment period.
Okay, yes, second.
I love it.
Do you want to comment, Robbie?
Do you have one before we move to have Chip poll the board, or are you good?
I'm good.
Okay. Chip, would you poll the board, please?
Nancy?
Yes.
Jackie?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Ravi?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Well, we have quite a bit left on our agenda.
You going to read the donations?
Yes, I will have you do that. Would you read the donations, and then I'll make my comment. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Under tab 13 in your notebook, we have $162,239 worth of donations from community members and PTSA in our community. First, we have an $11,000 donation from the A.G. Bell PTSA to Bell Elementary School to provide support for their library field trips and classroom grants and their summer reading program. From, thank you, Carson PTSA to Carson Elementary, $19,190 to provide for a variety of programs, including their teacher stipends for their student council, intramurals, explorations, math, choir, music, etc. There's a whole list of activities that go on in that school. $13,160 from the Dickinson PTSA to Dickinson Elementary School to provide teacher stipends, again, for their outdoor ed program, math club, choir, and ASB. Environmental Adventure School PTO to Environmental Adventure School for $1,360 to provide a stipend for their outdoor ed program. $3,488 to Einstein PTSA to Einstein Elementary to provide their teacher stipends for music, their Nature Vision program, and to purchase some portable radios. $12,030 from the Franklin PTSA to Franklin Elementary School for stipends for their choir, green team, outdoor ed, leadership, intramurals, and again, other programs in that school. $6,025 from International Community School PTSA to ICS for supporting their 4 teachers attending the National Conference of Teaching of English Conference, NCTE. $13,078 from the Kirk PTSA to Kirk Elementary School to provide stipends for their chorus, explorations, and math homework club, and again, additional club activities. $6,217 from the Mann PTSA to Mann Elementary School to purchase some computer equipment, some special needs equipment, and books. $6,617 from the Meade PTSA to Meade Elementary School to purchase classroom software. $16,135 from the Rush PTSA to Rush Elementary School to support their field trips, their Young Authors Day, and some science curriculum. $3,954 from the Sandburg PTSA to Sandburg Elementary School, again for stipends to support their Spirit Squad, Homework Club, and music. $4,728 from the Smith PTSA to Smith Elementary School to support stipends for their choir, their World Rhythms program, and ball games. $16,500 from the Renaissance School PTSA to Renaissance for their art supplies and to support their outdoor education program. $22,990 from the Eastlake High School PTSA to Eastlake High School to purchase a whole variety of things in that school, including a micro framework gadgeteer project, science molecular modeling kits, an electronic balance, sideline flags, and a variety of other equipment items at that school. $11,882 from the Redmond High School PTSA to Redmond High School, again for a variety of items, including library books, computer science and engineering equipment, digital camera accessories, and more. Again, for a total of $162,239 of donations to the school district.
And the answer is wow. Again, another wow. Thank you very much. More and more, especially with the economy, I'm always amazed that our PTAs can continue to step forward and community groups to help us out. As I was going to say, we have a number of things. We have a report on an ends report. I know you have a report under the superintendent report coming up, and then the board has some discussion to do. So I'm going to recommend just a quick 5-minute break, so if anybody wants to get a cup of coffee, run to the restroom, and then we'll come back and start back here at agenda. You're there? You're there. Okay.
Okay.
So, Chip.
Thanks, Jackie. I'm going to invite Dr. Tracy Pierce up to do our ER23 report on senior high school. And as you all know, end results 2 and 3 are the look at the student data, student achievement, on how we're doing in the system as a mechanism for determining whether or not we're meeting expectations around making sure that every student is future ready. Dr. Pierce. Button. No, I'm talking about Mike. I can't hear you.
No, I know. My mic button's on.
Okay.
Here that's not working.
There you are.
There we go. Okay. All right. Good evening. I'm going to get right into it here. So we'll be looking tonight at the classes of 2014, 2013, 2012. Those are our current 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. And as in our previous end result reports, we are focusing on literacy, math, and science. And just a reminder of our schedule, we monitor end results 2 and 3, September through December. Tonight's senior high, December, and then we look at end 1 in January. This is just a reminder of the types of data looks that we focus on for each end result, and I will get right into the report. One last couple set of reminders here. We're looking at our current 10th graders 9th grade data, current 11th graders 10th grade data, and our current 12th graders 11th grade data. We are using the same color coding system that we've been using all throughout our reports. And one point to emphasize tonight is for our senior high students, the state assessment KPI is a little bit different than it has been in our previous reports. So the high school students take a high school proficiency exam. That's the state assessment. It's similar to the measurement of student progress that they take in the lower grades. For the class of 2012, students have to pass the high school proficiency exam, or HISP, in reading and writing, and students can meet the state's math requirement by passing the high school math exam, which is different year to year, and I'll get to that when we get into math, or by earning 2 math credits after 10th grade. For the classes of 2013 and 14, students have to pass the HISP in reading and writing and 1 end-of-course assessment in math. Beginning with the class of 2015, they'll be required to pass both end-of-course math assessments. Getting right into the report for literacy, we look, like we have in previous reports, at multiple key performance indicators. This chart shows that of our 1,739 10th graders, when we look at their grades in language arts, 48% of them are on track or advanced, remembering that when we're in the upper grades for secondary, this represents students who are earning a B in language arts, and that's the green band, and the blue band represents students who are earning an A in language arts. 29% of our students are at risk in terms of their earning credit. They've got a C for their grade, but because our key performance indicators focus on future readiness, including college eligibility, we've got that higher standard of, for our end result reports, of really wanting our students to be earning Bs or better. 12% of them are not on track, earning a D or an F, and that's represented in the red band. And we don't have data for 182 of our students. The majority of those 159, it's not applicable for a variety of reasons. It could be that the student's IEP specifies an alternate grade, or they're students new to our system, so forth. We, through our data dashboard now, are able to look at that data disaggregated. So this is grade data disaggregated by group or program participation. And so we can very quickly see sort of the areas where we need to potentially look deeper to see what interventions would be helpful for students who are potentially not performing.
Why is safety net math here?
And I was just going to get to that. I'm glad you mentioned that, Robbie.
Sorry.
No, we've got, right now, the way the dashboard is functioning, we have some work to do in terms of what this is telling us. So what we want the dashboard to do is help us identify which students qualify or should be placed in safety net services. And then this data is actually pulling if they had if they were in safety net, what their grades were. So if they were receiving safety net math or safety net, they were in a safety net language arts. But it's not very clean data because we definitely have more than 109 students getting safety net services. So there's a coding problem here with the data. But it's showing up when you disaggregate, and we actually have a meeting coming up soon with the data team to get this issue addressed.
So the numbers are all numbers for literacy, but that group is kids who are in safety net
Right, so it's
math.
pulling right now, for some reason, it's saying 35 students, which isn't accurate. It's saying 35 students in the class of 2014 are getting safety net math services, and there's a coding problem with the data, and it's showing up strangely in the disag. I left it there instead of blocking it out, because if you're in the dashboard view, you're seeing that. So I just wanted to leave it there and explain it. Looking at our current 10th graders, we have to look back to their 8th grade reading MSP, and we can see their performance here. 74% of the students are meeting or exceeding the standard in reading as measured by the 8th grade reading MSP. The reason we have to go back to 8th grade is because we don't have a 9th grade measure. Beginning in 9th grade, students take end of course, or they take, as 10th graders, the high school proficiency exam. So it's just the way that the state assessment system is set up.
Can we go back to the one before this? This looks very bad, isn't it? Like, why does it?
Say that again.
This doesn't look good. Like, and the one before this too, right? Like, it's like half the students are on track In literacy, that seems very low. Why?
So if we look, this is based on report card grades. So the one thing we have to remember when we get into the secondary reports versus the elementary reports, we have a very clean standards-based report card in place at elementary.
Okay.
When we look at secondary, we have a more traditional grading system in place where students who, for example, are earning Cs, this could be because they're not turning in their homework. There's more than just are you meeting the standard or not currently when you're looking at grades. So this does show us right now that 29% of our students in the class of 2014 are earning a C. So they're earning credit, they're passing their class, but we've set our standard at a higher standard
Okay.
for our color bands for grades than C.
The way that I think about it is this actually, I mean, we don't grade on a curve, but typically there's a distribution of grades that looks very curve-like. This is really a grade distribution that looks very curve-like.
Right.
And what we are saying is if a student is in the yellow or red category, the likelihood of them being admitted to college is not very big. That's really what this is telling us. And, of course, it is worrisome if we've got, what is that, 41% of our kids in this particular measure that are not going to be college eligible if this trend continues.
Okay.
It also gives us an opportunity, given that this is really the first time we're looking at grade data in this way, for us to ask some questions about why are students performing one way. And again, this particular class of is a little different because we're having to look back at their 8th grade reading. But one question would be, why do we have 74% of our students meeting or exceeding the standard in reading based on the state assessment, yet they're potentially earning a C or a D or a lower grade in their class? And what is that telling us? So this next slide then is the 8th grade reading MSP data disaggregated for the class of 2014. And we're tending to see some of the same trends we've seen in earlier reports in terms of performance of our students needing intervention in ELL, special ed, low income, et cetera. When we look at, even if we have to go a little farther back to look at the state assessment data for writing for our current 10th graders, because the last time they took a state writing assessment was in 7th grade. Now, of course, they're doing writing all of the time in their classes, but the last time they took the state assessment was as 7th graders. And at that time, 68% were meeting or exceeding the standard in reading, 9% are requiring intervention, 18% were requiring significant intervention. And this is that 7th grade writing data disaggregated for our current 10th graders. This slide that I've been doing in the last few reports is looking at the level of agreement between our report card data and students' performance on the state assessments. Again, for a class of 2014, because the way the state assessments are, the schedule is set up, we're having to compare 9th grade report card data to 8th grade reading state assessment data to 7th grade writing state assessment data. But you can see that many more students are meeting the standard or exceeding the standard when you look at the state assessment compared to our definition of on track or meeting or exceeding the standard when we look at grades. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the class of 2013 for literacy. Again, we're going to see some similar things that we saw for the previous class. We've got 1,661 students in the class of 2013. These are current 11th graders. When we look at their 10th grade report card data for literacy and look at their performance in their language arts or English class, 47% of them are on track or advanced based on their grades. Those are B's and A's. 26% are earning C's, 15% are earning D's or F's. And we don't have data for 186 students, but it's not applicable, and there's only one student where data wasn't reported. Here's that same view of report card data disaggregated. And then we do have 10th grade reading, HISP, data for our current 11th graders. So when we look at the state assessment in reading that these students took last spring when they were 10th graders, 84% of them are meeting or exceeding the standard as measured by the HISP. Only 4% are requiring intervention, and only 7% are requiring significant intervention. And again, this is one of the assessments that students need to pass in order to be eligible to graduate, and that's a state graduation requirement. Here's that data disaggregated so we can see where some of our areas of significant intervention and intervention are needed in terms of group and program participation.
So those kids could be graduating with a C on their report card, and because they did so well on their state assessment, they get that because they've done so well.
Right.
They're just not showing that same performance in the classroom.
That's correct.
For some reason.
That's correct. Okay, we also have their writing data for these students. So this is the 10th grade writing HISP. And again, we've got 85% of the students who are meeting or exceeding the standard. 62% of them are exceeding the standard. 23 are meeting the standard. Only 3% are requiring intervention, and only 7% are requiring significant intervention. And these are the numbers. So of our current 11th graders, you can see about 163 students are really needing more focused intervention in writing, so they're able to meet this standard and be eligible to graduate. Here's that same 10th grade writing HISP data disaggregated. And as schools are doing their continuous improvement process plans, they're able to look by student, who are the students who aren't meeting standard, and develop interventions specifically to help those students.
So 22% of the students who are in safety net for language arts are getting the top score on the...
I have to say, I just, like in the previous slide, I left these safety net bars there for us, but this is not reliable data to look at, because the way that it was coded, it's not really showing accurately that really technically all of the students who are red or, showing as red or yellow would likely be getting a safety net intervention of some kind. And we know that we've got about 163 students, but because of the way that the course coding was done, it's only showing that 46 students are getting any, and this doesn't make sense that you would be put in a literacy safety net if you're exceeding the standard. So there's something wrong here in our data.
Okay, so the safety net one has some problem. What about the others? Are all the others accurate?
The others we believe are accurate. It's just this safety net disaggregation that's showing up strangely. We don't believe there's any data integrity issues with the other ethnic group or program participation in terms of special education, ELL, or our low-income students.
Some of the other ones look, I mean, I'd have to check the numbers. My impression is they look better than some of the other disparities we've seen, and like say the Hispanic and the low income, I think is less of a gap than some of the other, like in math, as I recall.
Yeah, I think, and if we look at the percentage of students by the time they get to 10th grade, we tend to do a good job of identifying those students who need intervention early on based on their state assessment data and intervening. So it makes sense that by the time they're taking that high school assessment, they've received interventions and they're the gaps here are narrowing.
Okay, I hope you're right. That
Yeah.
would be great.
When we look at this chart kind of comparing agreement between the report card and the reading and writing, we can see where, again, this is kind of a different standard in terms of the report card, because the grade that students are receiving isn't just are they meeting the standard in reading or writing. This is potentially a lower bar, and it's focusing on one aspect of performance. Are they meeting the standard? Whereas here, students' grades are also showing whether or not they're completing their homework, they're able to do projects and presentations. There's just more things that are making the grade for student than the singular measure. We do have the trend data to look at as well. So these are, again, different groups of students year to year. But we can see our 10th grade reading trend over time. And it's basically following the state trend. In certain years, you can see where the gap was larger between how our students achieve and how what the state average looks like, and that has narrowed in recent years. But our students are still doing really well. You can see 92% of them are meeting the standard in reading. And if you look back over the past several years, we're in the 90s. Same with writing. Our students have tended to do very well in writing by the time they're taking the high school exams. This past year, it's 94% of them. The gap we can see, though, between our student achievement and the state average is also narrowing. And over the past several reports, I've been able to show a comparison between our student performance in our district to some of our neighbors. So this shows how our students, percentage of students meeting the standard or exceeding the standard compared to their counterparts in North Shore, Issaquah, and Bellevue, and compared to the state as a whole. So you can see we're basically on par with our neighbors, a little lower than some, a little higher than some, but we're tending to all be in the low to mid-90s. Moving on to our current 12th graders. Again, this is the grade. In language arts, we've got 52% of them earning A's or B's, 25% earning C's, and 11% currently earning D's or F's based on their 11th grade report card. We can see the disaggregation of that data. Again, this is grade data and how students are performing. Again, we just need to not look at the safety net LA in math. But some of those same trends are holding true. When we look at our current 12th graders and how they performed on the high school reading exam, 89% of them are meeting or exceeding, 2% requiring intervention, 5% requiring significant intervention. So we still have about 130 of our seniors who are needing to meet that standard in reading this year. And here's that same HISP data disaggregated for our current 12th graders. Here's the writing data. So 91% of them are meeting or exceeding the standard in writing, just 1% requiring intervention, and 5% requiring significant intervention. So about 108 students still needing to meet the standard in writing to be eligible to graduate. And here's that writing data disaggregated. Okay. Do have the agreement again between how the students are doing based on their grade in 11th grade compared to how they're doing on the state assessment measures for reading and writing. And now I'm going to move into math and science unless there's any other comment or question about literacy. Okay. Okay. So math, it gets a little more interesting as we look at the state assessment data. But we're going to start with the current 10th graders, and this is their 9th grade math grades. So we've got 1,739 students, 40% of them earning A's or B's, 34% earning C's, and 16% earning D's or F's. Here's that 9th grade math report card data disaggregated.
Tracy, while I'm thinking of this, for our retreat in March, I think it'd be a piece that we should discuss is how, because they're so different from, you know, the grades, and because there's so much more in it than the state, how we can make some sense of that, comparing them. I mean, it's like apples and oranges right now, and there's just no relationship really between them that I can really see.
In the grades and the
state assessment. You know, when, I mean, we've got 90%, and then we've got this big gap of kids, you know, that are getting C's, and somehow in there's got to be some way that we really can see how they're actually performing. If they're doing well in the class and they're not doing homework, that's different than if they're testing well, but their grade goes down because of other things. I mean, there's just so much that goes into grades.
I think it's kind of, this was sort of going in my mind too, that there's really kind of a bigger question is how you even should think about these things as an indicator. I mean, neither of them matter as an end in themselves, right? Like for us in particular, it's like how are we preparing kids for the future, for college or whatever, right? And how do both of those things relate? I mean, I'm sure we've all known kids who they did well on tests, but you know, you ask them to really do something, and they never put in the work to really, you know, kind of push things through, right? There's other kids who maybe they can kind of spend forever, get the homework done, but they don't really quite get it, right? Like, how do we take this data to get at what actually matters? Like, both kind of have some element that's interesting, and I certainly wouldn't want to like look at the grades and be like, well, you know, that number's too low, you should make that go up, and then we, you know, basically
Set a
wreck
goal
grades
and then
as
you
a
have
work
grade
product,
inflation.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Have we thought about, I know there was an article in the paper the other day about Issaquah is doing this, I think a couple others that are looking at doing the elementary, I know we talked about it in middle school, the elementary type report card where they actually are doing it by the standards rather than doing it the other. And there was one article that I think the high schools are looking at it in some of the school districts, and that's how it's reported to the kids on their, when they look online and see stuff. And so if a test is not there, how it drops them, and you know, they've got to move themselves if they want to get to standard. You know, I just don't know, but I'm with Robbie. It's just somewhere in this, I'm kind of losing the meaningfulness of these reports to me.
Our long-term
That'd make
goals
no sense in
are to eventually move to standards-based reporting for secondary. We've got some work that's going on at the junior high school level right now. Although you need to know kind of up front, that is like the holy grail for
sure.
high school teachers. So just know that it's hard and it is complex, and there is, you know, 100 years of tradition with the conventional grading methodology that we would be challenging. Not that we shouldn't do it, and not that we aren't going down that path.
But it is high school.
But it is high school.
And I do think we have pockets of teachers. I mean, the more that standards-based state assessments have become available, the more we learn about standards and Common Core standards. There's more of an interest, I think, of teachers to be able to communicate to students of how they're doing as it relates to meeting the standard, and also communicate to them, and it's important that you do homework, and you know, work ethic kinds of things are important as well. And at the elementary, as you know, we report that out through the interdisciplinary skills and attributes and separate the those kind of work ethic and work completion things from how are you actually performing on the standard. And so it is, I mean, it is a huge shift from how secondary schools have traditionally done grades. But I would say the more that teachers are understanding standards-based, there's an interest there, at least in pockets, and some things that particular teachers have done to communicate to students, here's how you're doing on the standard versus here's what your overall grade is. So, I mean, there's opportunity there, I think, as we look at this data and as we make the dashboard available to principals and teachers, I think they're going to have the same kinds of questions. How do you compare these sort of apples and oranges, and what does it really mean?
Okay, I'll put it on a note for our retreat.
Good.
So I'll move along here to science for our current 10th graders. This is their science report card, 46% earning A's or B's, 29% C's, 14% D's or F's. And here's that science data disaggregated. It gets a little different when we look at math for our current 10th, 11th, and 12th graders, because those students now are taking end-of-course assessments. So how that works, that's the state assessment. It's the state level assessment, and within the last 2 weeks of school, they take an end-of-course exam. End-of-course year 1 is algebra, and end-of-course year 2 is geometry. So when we look at this, our current 10th graders, 969 of them took the math EOC year 1, algebra end of course, as 9th graders. Some of those, that doesn't mean that all of those students were in algebra, because some of them went back and took it, and when you take it, they call it makeup. So we have these students we've got some students who took the end of course year 2, which is geometry, because they were enrolled in geometry, and then they were also able to take the end of course year 1, which was algebra, even though they took algebra the previous year. So what this shows us is that the 969 students who took the end of course algebra as 9th graders, 81.1% of them met or exceeded the standard. And this, currently we were having some difficulty figuring out the best way to display this in the dashboard. So the shots that I have for you here from the OSPI report card site. But you can see it's interesting that they've got our similar color coding structure in place. So level 1, 2, 3, and 4. Red, yellow, green, and blue. So based on that, 106 of our students, or 10.9%, require intervention, and 7.9 require significant intervention. We also, I also did a disaggregation of just the big kind of groups that we have been looking at throughout our ER reports, low income, limited English, and special education. So we can see how did all students who took the assessment perform compared to students who are in special education, ELL, or students who are identified as low income. And then we have that same view for our current 10th graders. 626 of them took the EOC year 2. So this is the end of course in geometry. 97.3% of the students who took the assessment met or exceeded the standard in math. And you can see the blue band here, it's actually 78.4% of them exceeded the standard on year 2 of the EOC. And a very small number here require intervention or significant intervention. Here's that same view disaggregated, and I thought it was interesting as we've been looking at trends of performance of students that in this particular group there were all students who were identified as low income met or exceeded the standard. So the number in that band, there's 33 students represented there. And just as a point of reference, when you look at the number of low income for end of course year 1, there were 147 students here. But it's just an interesting and good note. I think that all students here were identified as low income met or exceeded the standard, which has not been typical of what we've seen. But it is a small number.
Do we find at the high school, because I know it's been a problem before, that we have probably a lot of low-income kids that are not reported as low-income anymore because they choose not to fill out the paperwork?
Yeah, and it's interesting because I talked with George recently, and we think that still holds true. But potentially some of our new facilities are helping to shift that a little bit. They've seen an increase of identification, for example, at Lake Washington High School, because it's no longer, it's cool now to buy lunch because it's a great facility. They've got great options. There's more students participating in the lunch program there, and they've seen an increase, at least at that. It's an anecdote, but in that area. But I think it still holds true that it drops off when you look at high school students and whether or not they're identifying, taking advantage of it when, yeah. Okay. So I'm going to move on to science for our current 10th graders. And I'm sorry that says math here. It should say science. But the last time they took a science state assessment was as 8th graders when they took the science MSP. So 71% are meeting or exceeding the standard in science, 12% require intervention, 13% require significant intervention. And they will take another science. This year, our 10th graders will take an end-of-course biology exam. That's the state assessment. So they used to take a science HISP, now they'll take an end-of-course biology. So it'll be similar to the end-of-course math.
How many science
10th
end of
graders.
courses are there going to be?
As of today, it's just biology. I mean, for this upcoming spring. Just end-of-course and biology.
Right.
Are they going to add others?
I can't remember if they're going to add chemistry or not.
Yeah, I at this point, all I've heard in the most recent updates is just biology, and I don't know what's potentially on deck for the future.
Thanks.
This is the 10th graders' 8th grade science data disaggregated. And this is an attempt at that agreement slide, which is what we have at this point, but looking at their math report card, science report card, and then performance on the math end of course year 1, end of course year 2, and 8th grade science MSP. So it's kind of a mixed bag of comparison here, but it is what we have available for the class of 2014. Okay. So moving to the class of 2013, these are current 11th graders. This is their 10th grade math report card. 41% earning A's or B's, 32% earning C's, 15% earning D's or F's. And here's the math report card data disaggregated by group and program. Here's their science report card.
Sorry, can you go back to that one for a second? Yeah, so the achievement gap here looks quite a bit bigger than some of the other,
than in literacy.
like the literacy ones.
Well, again, for a community that is so tied to technology and sciences, it is a little bit disturbing, to say the least.
This is the report card one.
Right,
that,
right.
You know, as they said, it's technically not curved, but
Yeah.
I still think that the gap, even if in aggregate you can't, necessarily conclude like proficiency strictly based on this. At least the gap you would still want to be small.
Right.
And what's interesting is that, which causes me to ask some additional questions. So if we look at 50 to 60% are in our blue and green bands, and yet we've got 70% of our kids that are attending college. So what is that discrepancy about? So I think we have to begin understanding a bit deeper about what this really is telling us, because we've got these huge discrepancies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair characterization.
So we'll look at our science. Again, this is a report card. 39% A's or B's, 33% C's, 17% D's or F's. And here's the display disaggregated for 10th grade science report card. And then we've got our current 11th graders' performance on the 10th grade math end-of-course assessments. So 1,134 students took the EOC 1. So this is algebra. That doesn't mean all of these students are enrolled in algebra, because you can see over 1,000 of them took this as makeup, and they also took potentially the geometry exam, knowing that students in the class of 2013 only have to pass one end of course. So it's not until 2015 that they actually have to pass both. But 86% of them are meeting or exceeding the standard. 4.4 require intervention, and 7.2 require significant intervention. Here's the EOC Year 1 Algebra end of course, disaggregated for low-income, limited English, and special education. And then we had 618 students take the EOC Year 2. So this is the geometry end of course. 71% met or exceeded the standard. About 20% require intervention. About 8% require significant intervention. And here's that EOC Year 2 disaggregated. Okay. We also have their science HISP. So current 11th graders, even though this year 10th graders will take an end of course biology, our current 11th graders took a 10th grade science high school proficiency exam. And 70% of them are meeting or exceeding, 12% require intervention, 13% require significant intervention.
Was that 70 or 75%?
The 5% is the no data.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
so that little gray band there.
Okay, I guess I thought on the bottom on some of these.
Yeah. And here's that science HISP disaggregated.
It's on my to-do list.
And this is that same agreement chart. This one's a little bit better than the current 10th graders, because for the class of 2013 current 11th graders, this is their performance on the 10th grade report card, 10th grade report card, math EOC, and the 10th grade HISP. So, for example, we can see it's an interesting to know that 70% of our students met or exceeded the standard on the state assessment in science, but only 39% of them are earning a B or an A for their science grade. So that's another one of those kind of apples and oranges questions for us. Okay, and then this is kind of funny because we know that a trend is really 3 years of data, but this is the first year of a trend moving forward. When we look at how our 10th graders perform compared to their counterparts across the state on the end of course Year 1 and end of course Year 2. So this is an interesting one that might be an area for us to do more of a deep dive in as we look into district improvement performance goals. But again, it's only 1 year. When we look at end of course Year 1, the state average is 61 86.8% and 86.2% of our students met the standard. But when we look at the geometry or end of course year 2, it goes state 66% and district 71%. So that gap between our performance and performance of the state is very narrow. The other thing to keep in mind, which is interesting, this is also comparing, some districts have integrated 1 and integrated 2. So if you're a district that has that as your math curriculum, the end of course exams align to that. So you declare really whether or not your students are taking EOC 1, is that integrated 1 or algebra, and EOC 2, is it integrated 2 or geometry? And then we've got the 10th grade science trend. And in this one, our students really are significantly outperforming their counterparts across the state. And then we've got the comparison data for between districts. So tending to be similar to performance of North Shore and Issaquah. Bellevue has done better. This is performance.
How do these numbers look? Like, I mean, not generally the across district comparisons. Like, if you look at it year over year, do you see like the same kind of, you know, in literacy, the districts kind of rank the same, or are they kind of bouncing around? Like,
What we haven't done is trends of comparable. We don't have trends of comparable. What am I trying to say? We haven't done the analysis of how our students have trended compared to our comp districts. We just look at the trend to the state. So for this year, this is actually the first time we've put in the end result report those comparables, kind of based on some of the work that we did last year and looking at what are our, who do we compare ourselves to? So we haven't done at this point, but that could be an area that we do a deeper dive on if that's
I'm
an
just
area
kind of curious.
identified.
Is like in some things, you know, we're ahead of Bellevue, and other things we're behind. Like, is there any like rhyme or reason to this, or are they kind of numbers that are close together, and you know, there's some margin of error? Like, just
But
would
in
be nice,
general,
you know, to think
the
about it.
percentages are pretty small. It's hard to, well, except for a few. In
Really?
general, the percentages are pretty small.
Yeah. I think that kind of where we are in our progression, what I was going to say is when they are ahead, they are lucky, and when we are ahead, we're better. But
There you go.
I think that one of the things we need to do, and this will start this at the next retreat, is, you know, the progression of development was to first start figuring out how we do our ER reporting, and then subsequently our goal setting. Then we'll start to introduce that next part of the triangle. So we talked about the triangle, the student, then the district, and then the performance, which is the comparables. That's the tip. We haven't really gotten our arms around what that means yet. So how do you compare to Bellevue, for example, when they have a different free and reduced rate than we do?
Right.
They have different curricula than we do. They have more resources than we do. So there's a, you know, their levy lid is I think 7%, 8% more than ours. So they have a 7-period day. And I mean, there's all those variables. What do we do with that? So we have to have that conversation.
Yeah, maybe you could say, you know, if there's particular areas where, you know, the position has flipped or something.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know.
And I think not comparing is not really acceptable.
Right.
We just have to figure out how to compare most thoughtfully.
Well, what's more interesting is when we have the time to compare curricula.
Yeah.
Okay, so our final class, I'll go quickly here. I know it's getting late. Our current 12th graders, this is their 11th grade math report card data, A's, B's, C's, and D's. Report card math disaggregated. Science report card, A's, B's, C's, and D's.
Yeah. That's confusing.
Science report card disaggregated. and EOC data. 277 students took EOC year one. About 76% met or exceeded the standard. And here's that group disaggregated. And then just 109 students took the Math EOC year two. So again, as we start with the class of 2015, it will be 100% of students taking both exams, but there's a lot of options for kids in these grades. But
So is it fair to say then, because if we look at these classes, that the further out you get, so the closer you get to the senior year, the more likely it is that those students are students that are struggling because their EOC exam is later in the math progression, therefore we see the numbers change quite a bit. Is that fair, or is that a stretch?
Well, I mean, what's interesting is only 277 students took year one and only 109 students took year two because they didn't even have to take it. They have many options. They either pass the math HISB or they
So
can
maybe
earn 2 credits, 2 math
we can't
credits.
make that conclusion yet, but down the road, when they have fewer options, then we'll be able to make that conclusion.
We'll know more when every student's actually required to take both exams.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, but just, for what it is worth, we did just pull the data on the students who did take EOC year two, who are currently 12th graders, and looked at that disaggregation of that 109 students. And then finally, we've got the science HISB for our seniors, and the science HISB disaggregated. And here's that final couple charts here, just the agreement. So this would be their performance on their 11th grade report card compared to performance. But again, it's starting to break down, especially here with Math EOC, because of the numbers of students who actually participated in the exams. And here's that one-year trend of our students as 11th graders who took the exams. And finally, a comparison chart for our students and our neighbors. And I think especially for year two, given the small number, this isn't a very reliable look at what our students are really potentially capable of. There's a couple other things that, according to our policy, we are reporting out as part of high school ER 2-3. One is advanced placement data. And last year we were able to, before we had the dashboard and we were doing a lot of kind of culling of data, we had some AP data to report. As of today, the breakdown of grade data or AP is not showing in the dashboard. So that's something that we are working on for the next version of the dashboard, is to be able to specify AP courses and then report that data out as part of the ER. We do, however, report advanced placement data every year as part of EL6, and so that will still be part of EL6 this year, as it's always been. Numbers of students who participate in AP and all of that data. But I just wanted to call attention to why it's not here. And then the other thing that the policy says is that we'll report running start data as part of ER 2-3. I don't think last year we actually reported that out, but we do have this to report out this year. This just shows the number of full-time running start students by comprehensive high school and all running start. So we've got, for example, at Eastlake, 77 students, so this is head count of students, participating in running start. 50 of those 77 are full-time.
That's a lot of diversity. At some point, I'd like to hear more about why there is that diversity, if we know. Yeah. That's kind of interesting, maybe, if we know.
Good. I made a note of that.
Okay, and then just to conclude, what we do, I just want to recap what Chip said. This is really our opportunity to just report out what is the data. And then, as you saw earlier, we've got at the classroom and school level the goals that are part of the continuous improvement process plans that every school completes, happening at the classroom and school level. And then we have the opportunity to work with you, take a deeper dive into some of the areas and identify our district improvement or performance goals. And that's some of what we talked about earlier in the work session. So,
Great. Thank
okay.
you.
Thank you,
Tracy. Okay, next.
Next, Jackie, we have in the superintendent's report a report out on progress as it relates to the STEM school. I've asked Cindy Duenas, the principal for the STEM school, to come and join us tonight. And just reminding you that this originally was scheduled for a work session, but because of me throwing a wrench into the schedule this fall, we've had to change some work session topics, and so we're doing this as part of a public board meeting instead of doing it as part of a work session. So I am frankly...
2 hours worth tonight?
No. We're doing 120 minutes in 20 minutes or less. So so yes, that's what we got going on.
Let's schedule a work session. We like Cindy. We like to talk to her.
Madam President, that's your call, not mine, I think.
Well, I don't mind a summary tonight, but I don't want to rush this whole thing.
So what I would suggest is that we do this tonight.
She could go home.
So let me pose a couple of options, even though I've now made her sit through 3 hours of a board meeting.
Bless you.
Now I feel really bad.
I'm sure she found fascinating.
She'll make me buy her lunch later.
Good.
So we've got two options. One option is to have her do the 15-minute version, and then we can do a work session possibly later in the spring when they've kind of gone to the next level. Or alternatively, we can, it probably won't happen, it certainly won't happen this month, either in January or February, schedule a work session, and you'll kind of get one shot at it. You probably wouldn't do a second one. So what is your preference? And I do understand it's late, and so I think that if you want to delay, that's fine.
Well, do you have a 15-minute highlight that you'd like to provide, or it needs more than that? You're the presenter, and we don't want to short shrift the report or your presentation.
Cindy, is this what you were going to report, this PowerPoint?
Yes.
And I'm good either way. It's whatever the board needs. I can come back in a work session. I can come back in another work. I'm fine.
Okay, so why don't I?
I'm really interested in what we're doing, not all this background on STEM education right now.
So.
Sorry, it's 10 o'clock.
Yeah, so why don't I interject? I think that the background is an important context setter, and so why don't we go ahead and delay? Because I do think that this is important enough that I would appreciate the full attention of the board, and I know everybody's tired. And
Sorry,
Robbie can come to the public work session and participate
That's right.
as an audience member, but you are not going to be allowed to speak because you know that's what happens during.
You could send your questions via somebody else.
I might make a special exemption for you.
Yeah.
I'll just write an op-ed piece on how terrible the whole thing is.
So if you guys are okay with that, why don't we do that?
I think it's an important enough topic that we would like to have her
Sorry,
have.
Cindy.
But I'm sorry that we've kept you here this long.
Okay. So can I suggest, in light of that I have you guys hand back your packets?
Really? Can I take this home and read it?
If you want to take it home, you can read it. You can do anything you want. You're a board member. You're my boss.
Can we read this, Cindy?
Well, I'm going to take the packet home.
Think how better prepared we'll be for the
That's
work
right.
session.
We'll be really prepared for the work session.
But you handed it out. I'm going to take it home.
Yes.
I won't lose it. You don't have to give me another one.
So bring it with you. If you take that, you bring it with you.
Give me another one.
No need to replicate
Okay,
documents.
so what'll happen then?
No, I hate paper waste.
So we're going to leave these with you, and we'll pull the slides because I know they will change between now and February when we do the work session.
That's fine. And you and I need to work calendar
Yeah. Okay.
of fitting in these sessions.
Thank you. I will buy you lunch. I owe you 3 hours of your life.
And we
for that.
heard that. I want you to pick a good place.
Okay, next, I just need to have a quick handout for the board. I indicated when I last communicated with you regarding the governor's budget as it relates to K-12.
Budget.
And so I actually have the analysis for Lake Washington.
And after reading that there's no plan for them to come to any agreement and they'll just roll into the next session?
Yes. So this does not, of course, represent the LEA cut that is on deck because LEA, we receive no LEA money. So how you read this chart is the first block, which goes where it says local levy funded cost increase savings, and the total on the lower right is minus 24,000. These are impacts to things that we fund out of our local levy, and there's an impact. And of course, it's not much. The next block is the state and federal funding increases or decreases. And you'll note that the big one there, of course, is reducing the school year from 180 days to 176 days. And that will cost Lake Washington $2.2 million in state revenues. So if that is passed through directly to employees, in other words, teachers don't come to work for 4 days and therefore we give them a furlough for 4 days, then we receive the less revenues, but we also make fewer expenditures. If we decide, for example, not to cut the school year, even though the state's not doing it, or if we decide through local negotiations not to cut their pay, then there's a balance issue. And, of course, they will likely cut the days, if this is what's approved, and say, and by the way, locals, you need to figure out how to actually implement it. So just know that that's the likely scenario. The rest of the program cuts are relatively small in the grand scheme of things. The next biggest is doing this unexcused absence game. So let me explain that, because that one is my high school principals just about had a heart attack when they saw that.
I'm sure.
So that one means that when currently, if a student has 20 unexcused absences, then we can't count them for funding from the state. They would reduce that number to 5. So as soon as kids are unexcused for 5 days, then we no longer get money for them, even though they may be attending school. I mean, you understand the problem.
Wait, for how many days do we not get funding for them?
Well, I expect that it's during our monthly count day. So, you know, we get paid once a month for kids. So.
Well, I'm trying to figure out what the impact of this is.
Well, right now the impact is $156,000. The bigger impact is an accounting nightmare and.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, this is just a quick update on the state budget scenario. It's a good news, bad news story, as you might expect. The state budget is a mess. It is another deep dive into K-12 education. The good news is that Lake Washington is less hurt than other districts, specifically property poor districts who also have a LEA hit. I've come out publicly and privately to say, don't cut K-12. If you're cutting it, cut it equitably and protect our locally voted funds that have already been voted on by our voters.
I have to say, I know the budget situation is bad. I mean, there's like reasons for this, but this is pretty pathetic. I mean, cutting the school year by 5 days or 4 days. I mean, it's in the wrong direction, right? Like, if you compare us internationally, we're already way more than that many days behind other countries that, really there's no justification for them to have so many more days than us. It's just sad.
And of course, you're all aware that the half-cent sales tax increase is designed to buy back those days. And so it's a little bit of it's just a challenging environment. So that is what it is.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
The last item is the board had asked me to come back to you on this softball issue.
Yes.
Related to the middle school sports program. So I'm going to pass around the this. You saw this once before. It's not been terribly modified, but some questions came up that create some small modifications. Sorry about that. So a few of the questions that emerged were, what's the criteria that we use as to which sports were eliminated versus which sports were not? And there was specific reference to basketball as opposed to softball or baseball. I think most people had some level of agreement around the logic in eliminating football because of both safety concerns, the number of kids that can play, cost, et cetera. So that really wasn't an issue of discussion. The bigger issue of discussion really was around softball. So the criteria that I gave the team initially was we want to have a developmental program that is more aligned with middle school philosophy. We want to have more kids participating, and we want to keep it within the parameters of the budget as it exists today. We don't want to increase costs as a result of this. So the team went out and did that, and that was the first round that you came with. So then I asked the team, what was the criteria that you use? And by the way, this was developed in conjunction with middle school principals. So principals got their fingerprints on this. This is their recommendation. Athletic directors are aware of it, but they were not involved in the development of it. So the decision screens then that I had them use to determine what to eliminate, what not to, was the student participation rates. So what is it? What are our trends as it relates to current student participation? What are the impacts on ASB budgets? Again, development appropriateness, and then what other programs exist in the community so we're not losing opportunities for kids. So if there's a well-developed baseball program, I'll use that as an example, then that may be one that would be appropriate to cut because there's other avenues for kids to both through the select program as well as the Boys and Girls Club and other recreational sports programs. So when I looked at that data, boys baseball, as an example, lost 61 students from 2009 to 2011. So that is a declining sport. Softball that is not true of softball. Softball has actually grown over the same period. So I looked at the minimum number of students that have to be involved in a sport to really hold a team. So softball and baseball is about 15. Basketball's 10. Cross country, there's really no minimum. Wrestling's about 20. Volleyball's 15. Track is 25. Tennis is 14. These are the numbers. And then looked at participation rates in each of those across the schools. So you saw tonight that you had extensive involvement from Inglewood. They have a robust softball program. Inglewood specifically has their girls softball. In 08-09, they had 50 kids play. In 09-10, 45, and this year 40. Now they're declining, but plenty of girls to play because 15 is the minimum. The problem, however, is that Finn Hill has struggled to keep their program alive. They didn't have a program in 08-09. In 09-10, they had 15 girls, and in 10-11, they had 12 girls. Kamiakin has struggled, Kirkland Jr. has struggled, and Rose Hill Jr. has struggled. So if we're going to have an district play kind of environment, you can't have, on the one hand, have teams over here that are robust and teams over here that are dying and have that play, especially when there is a robust program in the community to serve those kids. So all of that said, it is still the recommendation of the administrative team to implement the program that I passed around. which would include 4 seasons with the sports that we suggested, 3 intramural seasons with the sports that you have there in front of you, and to go ahead and move forward with the recommendation around the elimination of football, baseball, and softball. One adjustment that was also made on this, the seasons, there was a question about the seasons. The seasons are 7-week seasons instead of 6-week seasons, which was originally in the original document that you saw. And that is was an adjustment that was made after athletic directors gave us some additional input around what is required. So that's the what we have learned.
Okay, I think hearing the explanation of the programs and the fact that that they're not even, and it's hard to have teams when you only have 4 teams that can play against one another and the other 4 are non-existent, makes it a little harder. So that explains it better.
I do have questions about the boys and girls wrestling.
Yes.
I've never liked the idea once they decide they had to wrestle each other. They ever thought about having just boys wrestle boys and girls wrestle girls?
I'm not an expert in wrestling, so I'm probably going to defer that question. I'll find out some information for you and get it back to you. I just don't know enough about.
I would think we don't have that many girls, so.
Yeah, I can tell you how many girls we have.
What?
I can actually tell you the numbers.
Because he has all that.
Because of that, I do have.
Numbers.
Let's see.
I know for boys it's
to it.
popular. I just.
Yeah, I don't know how many girls that wrestle.
Baseball, softball. Oh, I'm sorry. I have basketball, baseball, softball. I don't have wrestling. I will get both numbers for you as well as what the girl-boy deal is.
Issue is.
Yeah, I'll
Okay,
find that out for
thanks. So we're going to do boys and girls tennis, just, they're different seasons, and that's always been that way, right?
you. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else for Chip
No.
on this piece? Okay. Doug, do you have anything for us for Ledge?
Well, the only thing I would add to what Chip reported in terms of legislation is it's a classic example. This special session is a classic example of, as you know, the governor called the session, that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And that's basically what's occurred, is that you've got a special session, but I don't think anybody expects anything to occur, and it'll probably just bleed in. The session will probably just bleed into the regular session that starts in January. And there's one additional thing is there's a group of us legislative reps on boards from the East Side who meet periodically with East Side legislators, and we met on the 23rd with Representative Maxwell, who used to be a school board member in Renton. And I think another meeting is scheduled for Wednesday with her, so maybe we'll learn some other things from the inside. But I don't expect much to occur until the regular session begins in January. But, things could change, but I think I think not much is expected at this point.
Okay. Thank you, Doug. Okay. On board follow-up. With the meeting in early November, the board agreed that we would be taking our superintendent search and looking at internal candidates for that position and come back. And then we've done a press release since then of our process and what we're doing, and then come back at this meeting with where we're at today and have a discussion of where we go from here. So I would like to start this. Chris was unable to be with us today, but he wanted us to hear his thoughts and comments. So I'm going to start with those because I think after I read it, this reflects my feelings very well. He did a nice job of kind of succinctly saying some of my thoughts. So this is a statement from Director Chris Carlson regarding the declaration of a preferred candidate for the Lake Washington School District Superintendent. My sincere apologies for not being present this evening. The current topic of discussion is critical to the future of our district, so I've provided this written statement in lieu of being present in person. When I joined the board, my predecessor gave me just one piece of critical advice. Bob Hughes, that is, told me that the only board decision that matters is the choice of superintendent. I'm still young and impetuous enough to believe that a few of our other decisions are important, but agree that the superintendent selection is simply the most important responsibility of the board. Over the past 4 years, I've been pleased to see some major new initiatives getting underway, including the STEM school, grade level reconfiguration to move freshmen into the high schools. I'm strongly supportive of these initiatives and regret that we need to replace our present superintendent before these initiatives come to fruition. I believe that the district is fundamentally headed in the right direction. This fact is critical to my consideration of whether to consider only internal candidates or to open the search to external candidates as well. Simply put, hiring an external candidate would unavoidably lose momentum on the existing efforts while the new superintendent gets to know the district and the district gets to know the new superintendent. Therefore, if a highly qualified internal candidate exists, I believe that no amount of qualifications in an external candidate could overcome the inherent value of a candidate who is familiar with and familiar to district teachers, staff, and schools. The board has considered internal candidates and identified a highly qualified candidate. After interviewing her twice as a board and once in person, I believe that she has the qualifications and abilities required to lead our district. But more importantly, she has the existing knowledge and relationships to help our district avoid losing momentum on the critical initiatives that are underway. As I said, I think those statements reflect very much my own thoughts as we've been working through this process since Chip announced that he would be leaving us. And so what I'd like to recommend, and then have the board discuss and see if everyone else is in agreement, that we have Dr. Tracy Pierce be announced as our preferred candidate at this time.
Do we need a motion?
I assume we should probably vote this in.
So I'll make a motion. Approval or motion? Did you make an approval, a motion?
Well,
or?
I just recommended that we put...
As the president, she
Yeah.
can't.
So I'll make a
you can
motion that
You can move.
the board have Dr. Tracy Pierce be our preferred. It's too late to be
Designate
doing
her.
this, Tracy, sorry.
A friendly
Our
amendment,
preferred
designate her as the...
Designated as our preferred candidate. Okay.
I'll second
Did I
that.
get it right?
Yes, you did. So we have a motion and a second. You've heard Chris's thoughts, so I'll entertain comments from the rest of the board.
I'll go first and try and be succinct because it's getting hard at this hour. I've been an advocate for Tracy pretty much since Chip dropped the bombshell. No, I'm not going to make it easy for him. Why should I? He's going to go off and have fun. So one of the things we always ask the superintendent, and some of us have been on the board a long time, some of us longer than others, is, start your succession planning. Now, we did expect him to do a little longer at the succession planning. He did not have much time, but given the time that he had, we watched him rapidly promote Tracy. We didn't know her well, so we took the opportunity in the last few months to get to know her before we started, really publicly saying, because obviously if Tracy wasn't the best candidate, the board would do a search. And I'm probably mangling all of this. But, one of the things, besides talking to Chip and realizing how highly he thinks of her, not only because of the position he's put her in, but she really is a lot of the workhorse behind a lot of these initiatives that are so important to our district and that we're involved in. I personally talked to other people in the district that I highly respect, and for the most part, the first thing they said was Tracy. There's a huge interest in continuity. She's incredibly respected by the people who work for her in the district. And really, there's really no one who doesn't think that she will not rise to this new level as she has risen to every level she's had in the district, which was quite impressive, I found out. I didn't know. there is not a position she hasn't had in the district, it seems. So that being said, there'll be more to be said in the future. I do think that Tracy is the right person to continue to lead the district in the direction we need to go in.
Doug or Ravi?
Yeah, I'd like to, I mean, I ditto for everything that was mentioned previously, but I think another thing is I think as a board we need to assure the community that we have done the due diligence required to get to this point. And I think it's important to, just for the record, to note that we reviewed the qualifications of the superintendent, and we matched those with the direction that the district's going in. And we also reviewed those qualifications with within the system. In addition to that, we did send out, we provided an opportunity for the community to weigh in and provide some guidance. And I think we got 1,700 responses, which is a pretty good response. And, you know, the survey basically validated some of the issues that we felt were facing the superintendent. And in addition to that, as was noted earlier, we spent about 6 hours interviewing, as a board, interviewing Tracy. And I think that was certainly provided us with a lot of details that are really important. And then on a personal level, I'm familiar with Tracy's work in the community. In my case, it was Sammamish, when she was principal at Englewood, soon to become in Englewood Middle School, and also as a member of our local Kiwanis Club. And I know that she really put emphasis, among other things, in developing leadership at Englewood Junior High in the form of a key club, the Kiwanis Key Club, that was active on the campus at that time. And so I've seen her grow over the years. I mean, as I think most of you know, I'm the senior member of the board, and I've had an opportunity during Tracy's career, at least as a principal, to see her advance beyond that and grow and really mature as an administrator. And so I personally feel very comfortable in this decision, and I expect her, as does the board, to continue to grow. And I think it again bespeaks well of Chip's effort to do succession planning and to make sure that there was somebody who was being brought along as a potential successor. And so I think to the extent I can reassure the community as one board member, I think the board has done its due diligence. I think, again, as Director Carlson noted earlier, that we're in a situation as a district where we really are moving ahead. We really have to, as a board, weigh the risk of going out for an extended search and potentially tying up the district for 2 years as we try to get a new superintendent on board and for the superintendent to learn the culture of the district. And I don't think I have to remind people what's happened in some of our neighboring districts who have, for example, brought in a superintendent that looked really good from a right-to-work state, and one of the first things that happened was that they went to war against their teachers association. And so things like that are things that we don't want to repeat. And I think that we have very good confidence that we have a person who can fill the shoes of our current superintendent in a fairly quick manner and not disrupt the positive direction that the district's headed.
Robbie?
So I have to say first that while I was disappointed that Chip was leaving, I was also disappointed that I couldn't just quietly ride off into the sunset as we had to select a new superintendent, which, as Chris pointed out, is the most important decision, or perhaps the only important decision that board members make. I agree with everything that the other board members said. I think Tracy is she's a strong candidate. Not only is she a strong candidate, she has really undergone the kind of interview that no other candidate from the outside can go through, right? She has worked with many people in the district. They've had a positive experience. We can talk to the people. We know when we talk to people how to interpret what they say, right? It's just you can't get that, right, from an external candidate. So I think it weighs strongly in her favor that we have a good picture of Tracy. I know that, one of the things early on that I had an interest in, at least, right, is, Tracy she's very strong, but she's risen quickly through the organization, which speaks well to her, right? But it also means that there are candidates in existence with, say, more years of experience at the level of superintendency, right? But I believe that, I don't know how to say this politely, right? I've met many of these people at conferences, and I haven't found them to be overall more impressive than Tracy. And
you're saying my colleagues are a bunch of doofuses? So noted.
He didn't go to WASDA this year.
They're not doofuses, but I don't feel that, oh my gosh, we're missing out on, if only we got one of these people, then, that it's not clear that we would have a better experience, right? And it's very hard to get a read, right? Like there's a lot of, external candidates, it'll be difficult to tell really, what we're getting in the way that we can have confidence that we know that Tracy will do a good job, right? And as Doug pointed out, and probably the others, the ramp-up time is not to be ignored, right? We're in the middle of a lot of big initiatives that we need to nail, right? We cannot afford for, those to either not be managed well, or, if this person won't be able to ramp up quickly enough to actually drive those and has to delegate those to Tracy, then what was the purpose anyway, right? So
that's a good point.
So, I think it was not as like an easy decision for me, but I feel good about this decision to make Tracy the preferred candidate.
I'm not sure I can add much to that. I think everyone's covered things very well. As Doug said, this is, and I'm hoping people don't think that we have done this lightly. Every board member has spent time on their own of talking to
October, November, December. 5 months. Thank you, Chip.
all of us have spent time talking to individuals in various parts of our community, from other staff members to people that we know, leaders in the community, and just in our own filters with those conversations. Each of us has individually spoken with Tracy as well and done a one-on-one interview, as well as our 2 interviews that were many hours long each, with lots of questions about what does it mean to be a leader and how to lead in this district, and vision, and those where are we going next and how to keep things going. And I know for myself, the thing I have heard most as I've been out talking to folks in the community is the need to have what we have in place go forward and take off and be solid in September. That the change to the four-year high school, the STEM school, these are huge initiatives, and they need to go forward. And no one wants to lose that momentum. And having been here with Dr. Saul, we all know that that first time, for one, a person from the outside would not probably be able to be in the district before summer. They're somewhere else, they're in another job, their ability to come here. The learning curve would be huge from June to September, when to August, because that's when principals are back and we're up and running and kids are starting to come in the door. And so that has weighed in my mind a lot. And I just felt that was a real important piece, and that's what I've heard. I hear over and over again that people are looking for stability right now. They got a lot of chaos in their lives outside of this school and their work. They'd like to see us be as stable as we can for them as the work environment. So those were just real important things that came to me. And many places I went, when people ask me, what are you doing? What are you thinking about? And I just kind of look and say, well, we might look at an internal, we might do my whole spiel, the internal, and this is what happens if you do an external. Well, you know what? If you're going to do internal, this is who I would recommend. And they would say, Tracy. So wasn't asking them their opinion. They were willing to give it to me. And I've heard that from principals, I've heard that from staff members, and I've heard that from people in the community. So I think that there's a lot of folks that are in agreement. Before we vote, I thought I'll explain what this means.
Will we vote on this? I just realized that.
Well, we
Because
can
we're
vote
not
that she,
hiring her
no,
until
we have
January.
A motion on the floor.
We have a motion on the floor
I
to
know,
designate
but
her as a
now-
candidate,
But you
but it's
made-
not a,
But now I'm having doubts, do we even vote on that or not?
Well, I don't think you can just
Are we supposed to vote on a
have
preferred
a
candidate?
consensus that it's.
I think the protocol is that you have announced that she is your unanimous, there's board has unanimously announced that she is your preferred candidate, and then you will do whatever process you deem appropriate, and then at some point in the future, in a meeting, you will vote to select her officially as the superintendent.
Yeah, sorry, I think I got us off on the wrong foot because it's too late for me to think.
so actually the motion is that what he said, that this is a unanimous choice
She is
of
the
us
preferred candidate.
as a preferred candidate. Not that.
I think
that-
it won't harm anything to take the vote the way that the motion was stated.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
This isn't an actual this isn't an actual appointment.
Right,
but it is.
or hiring at this point in time. And with that, as we have done this in the past, when we've announced people to be preferred candidates, is that we've had some opportunities to have some meet and greet opportunities for the community. Obviously, being the 1st of December, I'm not thinking of planning those anytime between now and January. I think we need to get through the holidays and let the world enjoy their families. So we'll look at the month of January. We've had some offers from our mayors in the area to help provide opportunities in their cities for meet and greets, so we'll take them up on that and see what we can get going there. We will do our own here and have an opportunity for staff that may not know Tracy, they may know of her, to come in and see her and meet her. At the same time, asking folks if they have comments that they'd like to share with the board, they have time to do that before we make a final decision. So I'm looking at probably end of January, early February before all that comes to be. So that's what that means. Did anybody question or comment on that? Okay. Any other comments before we?
Well, I guess I just reiterate
this to
again,
vote?
and going back to what Chris Carlson said in his little letter, is that, again, this is the most important decision that the board makes, in addition to the ongoing evaluation of the superintendent. But I think there is no statutory process laid out about how we, hire a superintendent. So I know there's an expectation on the part of some that this is going to be like a kind of a community process. And I think although there are districts that have had extensive kind of community input processes, they tend not to really result in finding the best candidate. Often candidates shy away from, a large group process kind of situation. So over time, we found that really this is a good way to hire a superintendent, to really try to match the needs of the district as determined by surveys and that sort of thing, and internal review and that sort of thing. And so I think, again, I'd like to reiterate that this is a process that I think has been thorough, and we're quite confident in the result, and we're pleased to move ahead as our president just laid out.
And we certainly have a good track record in our superintendents that we've chosen in this manner in the past. So I'll entertain, I have a motion and a second to accept this designation as a preferred candidate. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Tracy, would you like to say a couple words or come
After you told
forward?
her you wouldn't.
No, I told her I probably would. I already changed my mind to her.
Yes, well, first of all, thank you. And I feel truly honored and really ready to take on the role of superintendent. As you know, I've worked in this district for over 17 years, and I was a teacher here, I've been a principal here, and then I've been at central office in a variety of roles for the past 8+ years. And I've had the opportunity to work with and learn from Chip, and I know that I have big shoes to fill. Literally.
As we say, not fill, different filling.
But I feel prepared and ready to do that. I'm very committed to our mission and our vision as a district. I'm very committed to our students, to our staff, and to our community. And I look forward to meeting with people in the upcoming meetings in January, and I know that we've got many important initiatives that you all mentioned this evening that are in the works and that need to be shepherded through to success with configuration and the STEM school and a variety of things. I also know that we have a lot of real challenges ahead of us, and as I said, I feel prepared and ready to take on those challenges, and I thank you for your vote of confidence.
Thank you, Tracy. We'll keep you busy, even before you start. Okay. Any other comments? Board member comments?
I went to WASDA, but I am going to spare you all a report. It was actually one of the better conferences.
Yeah, it was.
That's what Doug said. Okay.
And they didn't raise our dues.
That's probably the first thing we've heard in a long time that was good. Before I entertain a motion to adjourn, our next board meeting is January 9th, and we have a work session at 5 o'clock. We'll have a reception at that time to at 6:30 to honor our schools of distinction and our national board certified teachers. Our board meeting will be at 7 p.m. here in this room. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Yeah, you can make the motion.
Oh, that's right. I usually don't make the motion to adjourn. All right, I move. We adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, Ravi is a move to adjourn.
The last motion.
That's right.
Nancy is second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And again, Ravi, thank you very much for your service.
Thank you.